All right. If you don't mind, could you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah, Tom's here. Actually, Kathy couldn't make it tonight, so Sonny's going to step in for the clerk position. So can you do a roll call for us, Sonny?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Stripe?
Here.
Renee Saban?
Present.
Jim Petrakis?
Present.
Christina Burke-Bauer? Here. Jared Glogli?
Here.
Jason Vandermeer?
Here.
And Darren Deskin?
Here.
Joanne Bardison?
Here.
Catherine Peretta?
Here.
Quorum is present, Mayor.
Very good. I see Lou Wold is here tonight. I'd like to open us in prayer.
I would ask you to pray with me, if you would, please. Almighty God, we thank you for your infinite and loving presence in our lives and for our country of freedom and equality and community. We ask you tonight to empower our mayor, our city council, and staff to have the ability to be heard and understood, as well as the ability to hear and understand one another and the citizens they serve. We request your wisdom, peace, joy in their lives and their families. Help our city to have creative unity in dealing with issues without division or antagonism, and to be a city of light sitting on a hill. Father, for the communities affected by Hurricane Harvey, we ask you to be with those cities and give them supernatural wisdom. For the cities, the counties, and the state and federal leaders and agencies, they're dealing with problems bigger than they've ever dealt with. We ask you to be a God of peace, to minister peace to the weary multitudes who have been displaced and have lost everything. For the many agencies serving them, to have people and resources necessary to serve these people. We appeal to you, O God, on behalf of the rescuers and the distressed. Protect them and give them rest, and for the waters to recede quickly. We pray for you. Protect from Hurricane Irma and the Caribbean in our country and the other hurricanes that seem to be behind it. As we approach 9/11, we continue to ask you for comfort for the families that lost loved ones on that day, and from other terrorist acts here in our country and around the world. We ask you to help us to remember and honor the heroic acts of those who respond and rescue. We request your protection for our country, our cities, schools, students, teachers, staff, from any acts of terror. We ask for your blessing upon those serving in the military, fire, and police. Give them wisdom and protection in every situation. Bring them home safely and bless their families as they serve. In your almighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Lou. Tonight, I'd actually like to make a proclamation. I had a resident, Eric Fitzpatrick, came to me and made me aware of the fact that this is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. And so I have a proclamation that I'd like to read and make before the council in this city. You know, reflecting some of the things Lou just spoke about, you know, with disasters and things, is just suicide is just when you lose all hope. And I've seen it happen in the military. There was a terrible story of suicide in our neighboring community just last week, which is very terrible. And so I thought it appropriate to make this proclamation. So tonight, whereas September is known as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which helps promote resources and awareness around the issues of suicide prevention, it teaches how to help others and how to talk about suicide without increasing the risk of harm. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, or background, and whereas suicide is the third leading cause of death among young people, and whereas Lockport, Illinois is no different than any other community in the country, but chooses to publicly state and place our full support behind local educators, mental health professionals, athletic coaches, PAC leaders, parents, all as partners in supporting our community and simply being available to one another. And whereas local and national organizations like Suicide Prevention Services are on the front lines of a battle that many still refuse to discuss in public, and whereas the youth of our community should understand that throughout life's struggles, we all need the occasional reminder that we're all fighting our own battles. And whereas I encourage all residents to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, friends, and neighbors over the next few days, and to generally convey their appreciation for them and any gesture they deem appropriate. Now, therefore, I, Stephen Strite, Mayor of the City of Lockport, do hereby proclaim the month of September 7, 2017 as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the City of Lockport, dated 6th day of September 2017. So I would like, if we can have a motion to approve this proclamation from the council.
I'll motion.
Renee,
Second.
seconded by Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you for that. All right, my friends, liaison reports. What's going on? Anything out there to talk about? We'll start with Catherine. Catherine's
Anybody
always.
else can go first.
No, go ahead. Why don't you go?
Two things. I just want to announce that we are starting our eligibility list for the police officer, and so our written test will be 10/7. Applications are available online at applytoserve.com, and so applications available from 8/18. The deadline is 9/22, and so Chief, how long is the list valid for? Is it 2 years, 3 years? 2 years. So the list will be valid for 2 years at that point. So that is something the police is currently in the process of. And then secondly, our police department will be doing a No Shave November. It requires each participating officer to contribute $50 at the end of the month to vote to determine who has the best facial hair, and the winner picks his cancer organization to donate all money to.
Are you going to grow that cheesy mustache back, Chief? Everyone was so ashamed by it, they wouldn't grow any facial hair when they...
And he donated to the Cancer Support Center. So, would you like to speak on it? And then can we get the approval of the council for them to continue this?
So, this year, November, we No Shave November. Last year, or this year, we're also doing a pink badge. Officers want to have a pink badge in support of breast cancer awareness. So the officers already committed to buying the badges. Most of them are not their choice, but that'll be in October. But November is a little different because you might see officers looking a little shaggy, so we're looking for permission. It's only 1 month. I mean, it's not going to be that shady. But it's your police department, and I didn't want to do this without.
Well, that's fine. So we're looking for a motion to let the police department be shaggy in order to help their...
Okay, motion to start. We make a motion to let them go
unshave.
Officers not shave for a month as long as they trim it nicely.
I'll second it.
All right, seconded by JR. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, sounds good. You know, Chief, I thank you for that. The department, and under your leadership especially, just, you guys all have big hearts, and you do everything you can to help the community. I appreciate that, so.
Awesome.
All right, anything else, Catherine?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, thanks. Anything else?
Well,
Yeah.
Everybody has something.
We can come down the line. Joanne, do you have anything?
Well, yes, but mine's going to take a little bit of time, so.
Oh, we do.
Mine's fast. Go ahead. Are you sure? I mean,
Well, no, you know
Go
what?
ahead, Joanne, you're next.
okay, I'll go. All right, I'm next. Okay. I'd like to start with greeting our guests here tonight from Three Rivers Association of Realtors. They're here tonight to honor us with a $5,000 check on behalf of Three Rivers and National Association of Realtors. They have found our city to qualify for this grant. We are very realtor friendly, and they took note of that, and so they wanted to honor us with this check tonight. Present tonight is from the Three
Come on down to
Rivers
the podium, gentlemen.
Association of Realtors is Matt Bersiketa. He's the current president. Secretary Treasurer is Ken Petlewski. He's actually a resident of Lockport, and his family members have lived here for many years. And our CEO of Three Rivers is David McClintock. He is also here. and Gideon Bluestein, he's the Local Government Affairs Director. And thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight and to honor us with this $5,000 grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Mayor Streit, members of the Lockport City Council, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Matt Persichetti. I'm the 2017 president of the Three Rivers Association of Realtors. I'm accompanied by Ken Petletsky. He's going to be our president in 2018, and as Joanne stated, a proud Lockport resident. The Three Rivers Association of Realtors represents nearly 1,000 real estate professionals, primarily in Will and Grundy counties. Not all real estate license holders are realtors. We must adhere to a strict professional code of ethics, go above and beyond in our training and certifications, and provide effective consumer service and outreach. It is likely that Lockport Council members and citizens know this, as they've elected two realtors, Joanne Bartleson and Renee Sabin, to the City Council. As part of our local community involvement, the Three Rivers Association of Realtors prides itself on leveraging the National Realtor Grants for projects that line up with the vision local leaders have for their communities. I'm proud to present the City of Lockport with this $5,000 check towards the update of the Lockport pedestrian plan. Ken?
Mayor Streit and members of the council, I've been proud to call Lockport home for over 45 years. I'm very happy to provide some background on tonight's grant and how it'll be used. The National Association of Realtors Smart Growth Grant is intended to help communities achieve projects that further smart growth goals. These goals include creating walkable neighborhoods, fostering distinctive, attractive communities with a strong sense of place, and providing a variety of transportation options. The bottom line is, these grants aid communities in their economic and community development, which helps boost property values. It's a great way for realtors, citizens, and elected officials to all work together. Lockport has excellent transportation assets with a Metro stop, access to 355, and the I&M Canal Trail. The pedestrian plan, which has not been updated since 2003, is a great way to add character and value to an already great town. We hope to be involved in the implementation and to continue the strong working relationship we've enjoyed for many years to come.
You want to do a picture?
Sure. Well, let me just say a few words of thanks. I just want to, thank you, gentlemen, for coming out. Thank you, Joanne, for your hard work and being part of this as well, and Renee. I just wanted to bring up come on down. It's all the realtors. Let's get them all down here. Just for council's understanding, I was just talking to David Livingston last week. I had a meeting with him. He's the new president over at Lewis University, and we talked about a lot of things. One of the things he had brought up to me was, is there any way to find a way to get a bike path up and over the bridge? He goes, I have 6,500 kids who are just landlocked here. They can go nowhere. And I said, it's really worth looking into. And grants like this will completely help look at that and restudy that and see if it's even feasible, because if it was, it would really transform, the kids who can come over here and get a bite to eat and just be part of our town. And so anyways, those are kind of things that are really important. And I thank you, gentlemen, for this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right, count on 3. 1, 2, 3. What a beautiful group.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Do you actually cash the big check, Lisa? I don't understand that. Oh, it's erasable.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Oh, that's your signature.
And also, thank you to Ben also, because he did
Oh.
have a lot of
Thank you.
help in between.
Yeah, and I want to thank Gideon because we collaborated on this a couple months ago, and we were talking about what could we do together and what would help the community, and we talked about the need to update our bike path plan, and they just lit up with that idea that was good for the community. So just thank you for all your efforts. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chance. Much needed.
So we'll be coming back for an RFQ on that in the future.
One more.
I do have one more for the liaison report. the mayor and I have been talking about how we can involve our residents in perhaps a to help them spruce up the remainder of all of Lockport, actually, is what it is. And this program would be where groups of assigned people on either on the board or residents, we would drive around and pick out homes that have taken the extra effort in beautifying their homes. It could be even a business, actually. And we then can award them a sign for in front of their home and also provide them with a certificate or something a little bit more special than that. Other villages have done this, and it has grown to a point where they actually have to reserve a country club banquet hall to provide all these awards that they are giving out to the village, you know, to residents of their village or their city. So I'd like to just put it out there that we are going to put it in the paper, we are going to put it on our websites, and it's probably start next year, of course, 2018, and we haven't decided if it's certain times of the year, spring or summer, and perhaps the holidays, or just for the summer time frame, you know, so that still has to be in the works. But this is something that we're talking about doing, and hopefully the residents will get a kick out of this, and we'll find that everybody gets involved in beautifying their home and the area.
And so I thought maybe, you know, a next step for this recognition, it's really what it is. It's about recognition of people who have, you know, beautiful yards or fantastic holiday decorations or whatever it is, and that's something that the committee can come up with. My thought is if we do a call out for volunteers to get, I would like to see, just talking, we can all talk about this, but if we had 2 residents from each ward who are willing to be on this committee, and then if, you know, Joanne would chair it, but it would really be a citizen-run thing, that would be good. So I think our first step is to make a call out to see if any citizens want to be on this recognition committee, and then they can start to iron out these details about how they would like to see it go forward. So
Okay.
I thank you for taking the lead on that, Joanne.
Okay, yeah, hopefully all our fellow aldermen, alderwomen will start talking to the residents and see if anyone is gung-ho and being on the committee.
When I lived in Hickory Hills, they had a beautification award and a holiday lights award.
Okay,
So, and they had it, was the sign, a placard, and a $50 gift card or something
right,
like that.
exactly, yeah.
You should give the raspberry award for anybody is not doing anything, who's the worst.
Gonna win the Raspberry Award. Yeah.
There's a few of those that'll win.
Yeah, we got more.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. The first thing, some good news we got from Will County yesterday, something I've been working on since June of 2009, is to go ahead and get the middle alignment reconsideration for the middle alignment so we can do something that actually makes sense versus building a new $300 million road. So yesterday in the Finance and Transportation Committee, it passed either three resolutions or 3 items on their agenda. All 3 passed. It's going to the county, and basically what it was is they agreed to the intergovernmental agreement that we have with Homer Township, Homer Glen, Lockport, and Will County. It's going to be they've already got the paperwork for IDOT all ready to go. So it's good. That'll be going to the county, full county board in another couple of weeks, and hopefully it's a resounding yes. Never ever thought we would get this far. It's good. I've also met with Brent and Ben recently in the last couple of weeks about our upcoming just putting together a have-to-do list for public works, capital improvement plans. Brent and his staff have did a fine job putting this together. The numbers are kind of astounding, and so I'm sure we'll hear those sometime in the future. We don't have to talk about them now. And we also, Brent and I also went over the RFQs for the various engineering companies. I was there for about an hour and a half, and I had to leave. So, but we talked about it, and I'm sure they came up with a list of 4 or 5 good engineering companies that we can work with. And then the final thing is if people haven't received a letter from that says City of Lockport from care of Dynegy, which is the company that is going to be doing the electric aggregation that we have with other communities. My question was, when I called Ben yesterday, is this a legitimate letter? And he said it was. So it is. The rates that, in my opinion, the rates that are being offered by Dynegy, which is only 0.002 or something above what the previous contract we had, so that's not even a percentage point. That's pretty good. And people do have the option to opt out, and I encourage people to opt out if they are uncomfortable with the city's thing. I just caution people that people are going to be getting phone calls and letters from various companies that say they're going to be able to save them money. And it's been my experience watching this over the past number of years is you save a couple of bucks for the first couple of months, and then you're stuck with paying huge bills thereafter. They just raise the rates. This rate is constant. Is that correct, Ben?
Yes, and then one of the things that's a little confusing is that the ComEd rate that they just announced is the same rate. So whether you opt in or out of Dynegy right now, your rate is still 0.071. It used to be 0.69. This was the new bid that we worked with the Will County Government League, and there's about 30 communities that worked on this. Right now, the Government League, we do have a press release. We were ready to kind of announce all this, but some of the letters are starting to come home, so we're going to have to put that on our website right away. The Government League is trying to decide how is this going to play out, since they're the same rates that ComEd's had. So whether you opt in or out, you're going to get the same rate. Now, ComEd could raise their rates next year, and then you would see savings. But right now, they're basically the same amount.
All right, so just let me be really clear.
Sure.
So the Dynegy is not ComEd. That's a separate
Correct.
person
They're
or
through
group.
yeah.
Okay, so while they're legitimate and you
Yes.
can use them, it's not the Will County, it's not the co-op kind of one that we do. Or it is
They
the
are
other.
the co-op, yeah.
So then, that's where I'm confused. Is it,
Yeah.
so if it's ComEd, it's not ComEd? That's what I don't understand.
It's a secondary supplier. I mean, ComEd produces all of the energy, and then there are secondary sellers of that energy. There are many people that may knock on your door that aren't ComEd, or they aren't Dynegy, which is our
Right.
official one through, there's
So
ABC.
Dynegy is our official one
Correct.
that we're using this year. Okay,
But
got it.
I think the concern the residents are having is the letter doesn't look like an official letter. It looks like somebody just wrote City of Lockport on it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I received calls today on that.
Right.
Okay.
And so, because the letters just came. And so the residents are asking, is this the right letter? And so that's the main question, I think, is the concern.
Okay.
Apparently it
And
is.
at this
Yeah.
point, you have to actually opt in to do this.
If you're not, if you've
opt
opted
out.
out in the past, you may have to opt
You're
in.
already in.
There was a Will County Governmental League one there, somebody supplied it before, and those rates went up, right? And we told everybody they can opt out. I opt out at that point, so I'm back to comment.
Yeah, then you don't have to do anything. If you're in the
Get the
program
same price.
still, you're already, yeah, right now it's the same
ComEd
price.
wasn't covered.
Correct.
But I can choose to opt in to
There
Dynegy.
is a card that came with the
Right.
letter, okay, and you only send it in if you're going to opt out, otherwise you just stay right where you're at.
This is the card. But he might not have received it if he's not in it. So are you saying only people who are in the program currently got this letter, or did everyone get this
We
letter?
don't know.
Not 100% sure, but I think everybody gets that letter.
I didn't receive mine
check
yet,
my
but
mail.
that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, your turn.
Real quick, though, before.
Easy, easy.
What is it, Brent, can you give us an update on the RFQ? What's the next step then?
Oh, sure. Maybe-
Brought it up?
yeah.
The next step is going to be, as Alderman Deskin mentioned, we have put together the list, so we've narrowed it down to, currently, I believe we're at 5 engineers. We've got the different lists, we've got the 8 different areas that we've went out to RFQ for, so we've got the lists under each of those 8. Our plan is, I believe it will be the 20th of September that we would come, and it would be just an information only, providing a status update, giving everybody those, engineers that have been selected, and proceed from there. Our recommendation, or I guess our request would be then from that point on, anybody who was on that list, most qualified candidate, would be selected for each project moving forward.
All right, sounds good. Anybody on this side?
I have something to say.
Right.
September 17th is the Sweets and Savory Crawl for the Mark Staley Foundation. It does two things. One, it goes to charity of Mark Staley. And the second is it's a Sweets and Savory Crawl. So there's 10 food establishments that you can try throughout Lockport. And you also can play a little bingo.
All right, that's very good. Thanks for doing that, Christine. I know you're part of that with Dairy Queen, so thank you. She's the sweet.
The only update I have is the intergovernmental liaison role that I had. We actually had our intergovernmental committee, Lockport Intergovernmental Committee meeting last week. The mayor and I were representing the city, and we had all the school districts out and a bunch of other taxing bodies, Will County and fire station, or fire department and so forth. It was a great kickoff meeting, kind of setting what was the pleasure of the group in terms of how to run the meeting, how often they want to meet. We will be meeting quarterly, and it was a great meeting to kind of open dialogue and start the dialogue with all the other community taxing bodies. So more to come.
Worked out good. Anything else?
I have something. Christine and I are working on a project called Lockport Live. It's to keep and promote businesses throughout the construction coming up, keep business flowing through the downtown area and surrounding, and still entice new business to come down. So we're working on getting committees together for signage, for maps, for some events that will just keep everything live and moving. We're actually meeting with Plainfield tomorrow because they've recently gone through it. It's a project similar to get some ideas from them. Our next meeting is Monday evening, 7:15, up here in the conference room if anybody would like to join the committee and help us with the project.
Good, I like it. Thank you. All right. And then lastly, I got something to Trinity Services that owns the Roxy, which we're all familiar with. They're completely redoing it. They're redoing the marquee, which is set to go up any day. They completely gutted the inside so they could put the sprinklers in and really make it a space that can be used. For those of you who may remember, a few years ago, residents would ask me, why can't we do something with it? And we put together a committee and a group, and we went to Trinity, and we worked through it, and now we're here at this place. So Trinity feels like they can be open before the end of the year and have the space open for usage, and it's going to be really nice. I mean, you no longer have to have the firemen sit there with a fire extinguisher without sprinklers. I mean, it'll actually be a nice, useful public space. And on September 16th, if anybody wants to, Trinity is holding like a dinner / fundraiser just to kind of wrap everything up with it. So if you want to go, it's September 16th. It's in Tinley Park. I will send out a Facebook post here in the next day or so. So if you want to see it, you're welcome to come out there. I will definitely go out and say thanks to Trinity for all that they're doing here in the city. All right, my friends. Well, that's good. That was a good, healthy liaisons report.
Yeah, and if I could add one other announcement, we do have a 9/11 ceremony here at Central Square with the city and the fire department at 9:30 on September 11th.
Yep.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, Pam, what do you got?
Yes, good evening. Jim Puritan on behalf of Lockport Square and Lockport L15 LLC is here before us this evening seeking approval of an amendment to his preliminary development plan and subdivision plan for a proposed 50,000 square foot 3-story hotel, Holiday Inn Express. It will be located on a 2.457 acre portion of the original 12 acres that was slated for Target. This went before the Plan and Zoning Commission at the regular meeting on August 8th. The applicant and his team were in attendance to respond to questions and comments. So summary of the comments include some issues on the maintenance of the existing BMP islands, which is best management practices. These islands are planted with native plant materials, and they actually serve as a means of stormwater management. Note that the plants will have a natural appearance and which will appear less formal than what we're used to seeing in conventional commercial landscaped islands. The commission also inquired about any kind of truck traffic that would be making deliveries on the site. None are anticipated. It would be the traditional box trucks deliveries. There was also a question about the hotel tax, which our city attorney, Sonny Williams, did a great job at explaining to them how that all worked. There were no objectors present at this meeting. There were no revisions necessary prior to tonight, so they're ready to move forward. The Plan Commission voted 5-0 in favor of the proposal with no additional conditions. Just so that the council's aware, this is just the preliminary, so they will be coming back for final, and once their finals are approved and we go through the appropriate process, they will be ready to break ground. We are seeking direction to have this action placed on the next meeting, September 20th, for final consideration. And the applicant's here with a presentation.
All right, Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Jim Purinton. I'm a partner in the Lockport Square Development, and I'm here tonight representing Janko Group, which is a major partner in Lockport Square Development, but also the developer of the hotel. I will go through a quick presentation of the project, and then we have our team here to answer further questions.
So I can ask a question now?
Well, if you want to let him do his presentation.
Oh, okay. Oh. No, he just stopped, so I'm like, oh.
No, trying to find the clicker.
Oh, okay.
The Holiday Inn Express Hotel, as you probably are aware, is the fourth building at Lockport Square. We've been struggling, trying to get it going. It's going to be located the far east side of the property with frontage along I-355, immediately south of the Medical Express building. The hotel represents a new use for Lockport Square, which wasn't anticipated in the original 2007 plan. As a result, we need to subdivide the existing lot to accommodate the hotel's need for a 2+ acre site. In this case, we're starting with the former target parcel, Lot 15, which we purchased last December after many years of trying, but giving up hope that Target would actually develop their store. We are proposing to essentially subdivide Lot 15 into 3 smaller lots shown in the red. One for the hotel, one for a restaurant next door to the west, and a future movie theater to the rear. As you can see, we are mostly re-subdividing Lot 15 into the 3 lots, but we're also taking a little bit of land from Lot 13 and giving some land to Lot 13, which squares off the new Lot 15 A, B, and C parcel. And here's an aerial of the site. As you may be aware, the Target parking lot is already nearly constructed. All curb cuts to the interior road are done. The parking island curbs, concrete curbs are in place. The subgrade and even the base asphalt are laid. The stormwater management system has been installed and utilities are nearby. So one of the challenges to the site is really how do you locate a hotel with the existing infrastructure already built on the site. Let me back up just a second. Well, I have this slide up, and I want to point out 2 things. One is those large green rectangles in the middle of the parking lot. Those are the BMP islands that we talked about. Basically, the parking lot drains into those islands. It's got natural native plants in there, and it filters the water before it goes into the stormwater system. Second, there's 2 vertical white ribbons in there. Those are actually already installed pedestrian sidewalks that were part of the original plan to move pedestrians from what was intended to be the retail stores in the rear to the outlot stores in the front. So those are pedestrian walkways that are already in place. Okay, the red circles here show the locations of those existing curb cuts already in place. The purple arrow represents the interior road, which goes east-west, really the length of the property, all the way from Express Medical on the east to now Panera on the west. And the primary 4-way access to 159th Street is actually a little bit west. So everybody's going to basically come to the site on the purple arrows road from the left to the right. The blue arrows kind of show how car traffic are going to find their way to the hotel main entrance, which is the big blue circle. And then the orange arrows show how truck traffic will come to the rear of the hotel. The service area is in the rear of the hotel. And the purple oval identifies on this slide the area which is the access road to the hotel, but you can see the little dotted line to the right. It's actually off of the lot of the hotel. Because the curb cuts to the interior road, this is kind of a main access road which will be to the restaurant to the left, the hotel to the right, and to the theater in the rear. We obviously own this land as well as hotel land today, so while it's not part of the hotel Lot 15C, we're actually completing the road improvements and the landscaping as part of the Holiday Inn development. The hotel development also is going to utilize that existing pedestrian walkway, which is the up and down oval in the brown oval. The hotel front door will have a designated pedestrian walkway, stamped asphalt when it's in the parking lot, and it will connect the hotel westward to that main north-south connection, and in the future to the restaurant to the west and the theater to the south. As noted, the site already has stormwater system installed. Here's kind of the macro view of this BMP Islands. In the case of the hotel, we're obviously on the eastern side of those 16 BMP Islands that I referenced previously. All of them drain the parking lot and then take the water elsewhere. On the eastern half of the site, on our portion of the site, the water literally goes by pipe to this area on the far eastern side of the site, which then there is a swale system with native plants that goes south to the corner of the site and then all the way across the back of the site from east to west. This swale system in BMP Islands was constructed as part of the project's Army Corps of Engineers permit and replaced what was an intermittent creek which formerly ran through a portion of the site. So this is all part of our Army Corps permit, which we're working on each year to prove that we're doing more work to establish the native plants. The green circles here on the site show the location of the existing BMP Islands on Lot 15C, and the blue arrows show the existing underground piping. And the green oval on the right is the start of that swale system. We're going to have to replace, as you can see, the hotel footprint on it. 2 of those BMP Islands are right in that footprint. So this is what we're going to do engineering-wise. We're expanding the western BMP Island, creating a new one north of the hotel, which will capture the stormwater on that side of the hotel. And then we're adding 2 smaller BMP Islands to the south of the hotel to pick up the rest of the stormwater on the site. So all of the stormwater currently goes through these BMP Islands, and all of the future stormwater will go through the BMP Islands, except the roof of the hotel, which will go directly to the, because it's not contaminated, it'll go directly into that swale system. This modification does require Army Corps of Engineers permit as an amendment to our existing permit, so we'll be submitting our plan to the Corps after our approval here today.
Okay.
This slide shows landscape plan. It's an enhancement of the plan in the parking lot that was there for the Target. And this shows the exterior of the hotel and the site plan. It's got what you would expect. Handicap parking near the front entrance, the porte-cochere, canopy, rear patio, outdoor patio area. And then we have some special Lockport Square amenities that are required for all developments in Lockport Square. And that includes 8-foot wide sidewalks for a building this size, bench outside the front door, and bike racks. I suspect you're probably not going to ride your bike to rent a hotel room, but you might visit somebody with that. The hotel has indoor swimming pool and breakfast area. And finally, here are the elevations of the hotel. It's a design upgrade from really our Galesburg Hotel in order to meet the special architectural standards which are part of all Lockport Square developments by the annexation agreement. So as a result, there's a limestone-like base, brick middle, and ephes panel top with metal panel accents around the front entry. The north elevation is the one that will face 159th Street, and the entry drives to Lockport Square, so that's what you'll kind of see as you drive up. The south elevation is the one facing the theater behind it. And this east elevation is the one facing 355. Obviously, the west elevation is another one that you'll see as you're driving west on that interior road to see the hotel. We have some wall signs as samples. They're not part of the approval process, but that shows you kind of the signage that we'll have on the property. And they've been designed to meet the city code. And then finally, well, again, it's not part of this request, but I want to remind you that the annexation agreement did approve 3 pylon signs. two 25-foot project signs along 159th Street, one at Edelman and one in our middle entry, and then a 45-foot highway sign to be located visible and near I-355. They were obviously originally intended to be used by project's anchor and junior anchor tenants. The design of these signs is also part of the annexation agreement, as was the city sign that's already been installed. You can see the kind of dark brown metal curved part. Ben was good enough to make sure that was in the city sign when that was installed. The colors here aren't quite appropriate, but it's a dark core tan kind of a metal. And this just shows where the future theater and hotel sign panels would be located, which they basically replace where Target was in the original signage. All right, we're done. Questions?
All right. Thanks, Jim, for coming out and doing that presentation. Catherine, sounded like you had a question?
I just wanted to know why all the parking kind of makes you go through one entrance. Just because, like, the back is not used for any parking, so everybody who comes in through the front and kind of exits through the front, just because that's, I mean, am I understanding that right? Because it seems like, you know, to mainly get in and out of the hotel, it's through the front. And
well, there's parking behind, and there's parking on the theater site right behind it as well. There is a back door, so people can park.
Because where are the doors exactly? Then I see everybody kind of going that way. The other door would be, I'm guessing.
Well, this is a portico share in the front door. There's a back. This is the back patio. There's actually a back door.
Okay, but no door to this part of the thing.
Is there a door to the east?
Highway?
The west? Highway?
Well, I mean, I'm just wondering if we bumped, I just don't know about if there is 81 rooms. To me, it seems like the way you want people to come in and out of this building seems to all be through the front, the way the parking is. I mean, you only have a few spots on the other door. So everybody would be coming through the front door every time. So that was my question.
That's how hotels work, man.
No, I mean, I've been to a lot of hotels where there's parking all the way around the building.
Right.
And
yeah.
so my question is how is traffic flow? Because you also, is this a hotel with breakfast in the morning too?
Yes.
So you've got a lot of people down there all at the same time. And then the other reason, you also have, if it's my understanding, you have like a room we could rent out too for meetings, or no?
There are some.
Because sometimes meetings start at 9 a.m. too. It just seems like it could be heavy traffic flow through that one door.
Oh, well, we certainly exceed code. But we kept the site, the hotel to the right-hand side of the site, basically to allow for the traffic flow and visual nature.
Can you go to the overall site plan? I think it's the next one. It shows the parking below. Keep going. Or, yeah, whatever direction. There.
Yeah.
So is
there's
a lot of parking that way too then? Okay, and what are...
But those are for the theater?
So they can park at theater parking then? Or,
sure.
So then that's my question then. So if you use that other parking, will it be allowed for overnight parking in the theater?
Yes.
So we're okay with that as a city too? If people would leave it, it doesn't have to be in the like the...
Correct. Well, there's cross parking and cross access for the whole back end of the project.
So if we go
theater people can park on the hotel people can park in the theater, restaurant people can park. I mean, this is open parking in the entire back of the project.
So as a city, we have no problem with...
I don't have a problem with Catherine. I think these guys know what they're doing.
I just want to clarify to make sure.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, I do. Jim, while you're looking at this, so the entrance there, you were saying was the main entrance, right, from the main inner aisle, inner road, and then it goes down to the theater. I know this is a different development than what you were originally planned, right? All those islands up there on that inner street are all different. It's those U-shape, upside-down U-shape.
Yep.
I don't know if there's anything you can do with kind of accentuating the one that gets you down. I know you accentuated some of them, the main one in the middle of the entire development. You may want to look at accentuating, keep going to the right, that entrance, no, back, right there, that entrance right there, that goes all the way down. That's your main entrance to the hotel, like you just said,
right,
and to the theater.
Yeah, the actual main entrance to the theater is likely to be this one. This is the right in, right out, but the theater, you know, they can find their way there.
Okay.
You can find your way there, you can
That'd
find
be
your way
the,
here.
okay.
And you could also, in the middle of the project, there'll be a road that comes to this road, you can find your way there as well. So there's,
Yeah, the development is set up for, obviously, everyone getting to the big boxes and that big strip, so everyone understands getting through that sea of parking to get there, but once you start putting the little restaurant, which is a mini outlot, and then the hotel, sometimes you get lost without the ways, the means, trying to get to them, so something to concentrate on. The north-south sidewalk that was eliminated, didn't look like you put one back in?
no, it's there. It's,
Not that one, the one to the right, there were two.
this one's there, and this one's here. They're built already.
Go back to your original plan.
Back, I gotta go back. There it is.
That one right there, that is the hotel's hitting that one, right? Am I got the wrong?
The hotel's located over here, and then we'll have a sidewalk going to this one, and there's that sidewalk which is in place, and there's the other sidewalk that's in place.
Oh, gotcha, okay. And then the last question I had was just, or actually two more, sorry. Go to your elevations, please. What is that one right there? So nope, go back. On the east elevation, all the way to the right, and then you can see it on the west elevation, all the way to the left, that lower portion, why is it a difference in building and?
That's the swimming pool.
Okay, I know it's the prominence, the north side of your whole hotel development, if my architecture hat's on there, it just looks like it looks a lot different than the rest of I mean, it still's got the same lines, but it just looks like it got lopped off, and so.
Yeah,
just-
there aren't rooms on top of the swimming
Okay.
pool, correct?
Right, I understand that, I'm just talking about the fenestration outside, the colors. Go back to the one slide you had, right there. See how that gray, the beige stops, doesn't continue, it's just a lower, the top beige. We could talk about it after, don't worry about it. I'll give all my comments to Pam, we'll talk about it, don't worry.
Jim, the architect. That's like I was going to beat him up about the font he chose on the signs that look handwritten, yeah.
Sorry. Trying to put the best foot forward.
I know you are, man, I'm just kidding. All right, anything else? Does an amendment need to be voted on, or can we do a consent agenda if we
You
want to?
could put it on a consent agenda.
All right, what do you guys want? Do you want to do consent with this? We feel like we got it answered? Yeah. Okay. We'll
Yeah,
do-
but since I started with questions, let me just say, I like the development, I like how the building looks like, I like how you guys threw that on there and made this work, so I appreciate it.
All right, very good. All right, we'll put it on consent. Thanks, Jim, appreciate it. All righty. Moving on, what else you got, Pam?
Yes, thank you. The next item is Tom Small, on behalf of Lockport Investments LLC, is here this evening seeking approval of a rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential and O2 General Office to all R2 Single Family Residential for the property that he owns, which is generally south of that creek line. The intended purpose is to designate this property for future residential development. The R2 zoning district does allow for one-family or single-family detached, one-family attached, such as a townhome, and two-family dwelling, such as a duplex. The applicant is also the owner of the vacant property north of the creek, and as the council may recall, during discussions of the proposed industrial business park, the applicant agreed to rezone this property south of the creek to all residential. The rezoning is only being considered at this time. When a proposed project or subdivision is formally presented to the city, it will follow the required development review process. A public hearing was held at the Plan and Zoning Commission on August 8th. The owner was present along with his attorney and development team. Residents were present, but they were for the industrial business park, and no one objected to the rezoning. The Plan Commission voted in favor of this 5-0, and staff is seeking direction from the council to place this requested action on the upcoming September 20th meeting for final consideration. The applicant's attorney and him are present.
You guys have any questions, concerns about this?
No.
I do we talk about it as a council here, so there's a creek, and this is also between Prologis and for this one. We've had a lot of creek stabilization discussion. There's a new subdivision that we're doing it. Are we owning that area around the creek? Is that subdivision going to be responsible for that creek? Is Prologis going to be responsible for that creek? This is an opportunity before this all gets approved that we discuss this. I don't think the city should be responsible for doing that if you buy a house or a lot next to the creek or whatever it is, unless we want to put a walk through there or we were taking it over. But that's not the case here. So where are we doing this, and as we stand as, moving forward on a lot of these creek issues? This is a prime example of we're incorporating something here. Who's responsible for that? I'd like to have that discussion.
Sure, I could maybe start to speak to that. I've obviously spoken to Jim and petitioners, and the creek is on private property, so any future maintenance of that creek will be on the property owner. I mentioned to them about some of our concerns on the Milne Creek stabilization projects that we've talked to, and it was a big concern, and I know Jim's here, and I spoke to him today that he didn't seem to have a problem with that either, and that was the understanding that we've had from previous conversations that that creek through there is on their property.
If the board's okay with that, I'd like to memorialize that, so this is part of the agreements, and we're going through this, so we don't have confusion or the discussions later about who's taking care of that later.
I mean, that creek is in much better shape than the other one that we've talked about, so this is something that's probably not, other than simple landscaping or clearing of down trees, there's probably not much maintenance required at the time, but, we can work with the property owner as things arise over the next future years.
I don't have any problem with it. I think it's a good idea.
Sure.
Okay, it's just, is this something are we springing something on them tonight, or is this something that's been previous discussions?
We've had previous discussions, but
This isn't any new thing then?
shouldn't be a shock, I wouldn't think.
Are you shocked to them? Okay.
I shouldn't be a shock. I've had conversations with, I think we're mixing a couple of things here. That's a Prologis more thing than it is the.
Right, I think the creek is.
The creek is all on the Prologis side. We were speaking about the
I thought this
residential.
property has also some residential up against that creek, or, I mean, this is the south side of that creek, so it's obviously
Yeah,
got a border.
it's south of the creek, correct.
It's got a border.
I think that's.
But is it the north side of the subdivision, the future subdivision, Mike? I think that's the question.
That's correct.
All right, so does that subdivision, so if Prologis is responsible for the banks on the south side of the north side of the creek, is the subdivision then going to be responsible for the banks on the south side of the creek?
Yeah, that would be correct. It's on our whatever's on our property, we would be responsible for. You want to
help clarify that for just a second?
Yeah.
Prologis is buying to the south side which is the floodplain. So that's basically just on I think you're concerned about the trees and what's there. I'm pretty sure most all that's in the floodplain. And they're buying to the south floodplain line. So.
With the issue we're having is with, obviously, over years, the creeks meander, right? They may take a different shape, different form, different routes. And if it takes some more, if it starts creeping north, Prologis is responsible for. If it starts eroding or doing anything there, if it starts creeping south onto other property, who's responsible for it?
I think when you see the residential come in, the creek as you see it, the limits of the creek aren't going to change.
I'm fine. You never know nature here. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page so we don't have any residents looking at us saying the city should be responsible for it. It's a subject that's actually come up recently on another creek. So I just want to make sure that.
We also have to look at it, says, okay, looking in the future, what is the potential use of the land upstream, which was not done 60 years ago in Lockport in regards to Mill Creek, okay? So what we have upstream right now is one or two more warehouses. We have open space from the Homer Township Hope open space. Nothing's going on there. We're not going to put any asphalt there to dump water down there. Go further east. It's down in the, it's completely different than what happened to the creeks in this town due to poor planning 60 years ago.
I don't want to debate that. It's just more of a responsibility of if that creek runs dry or if that creek overflows and starts meandering, whose responsibility is it? That's it.
We're not going to be alive then.
I just want,
Well, that's
That's what he's
not.
I'm not kicking that can down.
Yeah, it's not about kicking the can down, it's about figuring that out. Because I think you're right, Darren. When some of the problem that we have with the creek now is development that happened, further to the east. And so I think the question here is, I think while the property owners north and south of this creek, they'll be responsible for it, but what does flow look like further west on the creek? Is there going to be bigger flow, which causes similar problems to what we have now in the neighborhood that we're looking at creek stabilization? What happens there? Is there more runoff now with this development? How does that affect the creek further west? And then is that going to be where the city suddenly, 20 years from now, is there a council that's going to be like, why didn't these guys ask the question? I think that's where Jim's coming from.
I just want to make sure, and the petitioners are amicable to
They're
it. So.
fine with what you want, I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah.
When the residential development comes back with a plan, it has to come through again for a PUD approval, and that, at that time, the border of the creek or where the location of the creek would be incorporated into that plan. And you can impose the conditions at that time if it is on the residential. Right now, my memory of the creek is it's on what Prologis is targeted to buy.
And I do think we're, pretty firm about water management with Prologis, so I think that.
Yeah, everyone's doing their portion, but every 1% difference on everybody upstream, as Darren was saying, each starts adding up, and we have issues, and we seem to have 100-year storms every 5 years now, so there's a lot of issues that we have there. And again, streams always changed and doing that. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that, because it was a debate that we had on, Oak Creek is just west of there, right? Who's maintaining that creek if that meanders into Oak Creek? Or the other subdivisions down there, all of our creeks. So I just wanted it, here we are having that discussion that previous boards didn't have, that we said. I just want to make sure that we're having it here and we're understanding it. We're talking to the petitioners and saying, this is our understanding, this is what our wishes are.
The solution 60 years ago was run a storm sewer down to the canal. That wasn't done.
Well, we could do better now, so.
Well, if I'm right, if I remember right, all the Prologis demands that we made about creek stabilization and water runoff were addressed. So, okay.
I think so. Just for the record, I'm Mike Martin, the attorney for the applicant, Lockport Investments. And basically, this is what we promised when we were here last time, to rezone this to R2. We're fulfilling that promise. And as part of that, we've also donated approximately 5 acres, about 3.2 from this site and another 1.7 north, to expand the well sites that exist there too.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Is this something that we can put on a consent if we agree?
No, it should be on the regular agenda.
Okay.
Mayor, so Jim, are you content that they're saying they're going to be taking care of the creek? Is that the understanding here?
I'm
Because
confused, yeah.
it's on your
Yes.
property?
Well, I think the answer is it's on Prologis' property.
Okay.
But I'll leave it up to staff to figure that out with them, to say that if it's Prologis, it's running through their property, then Prologis, the northern portion that we're going to be talking about next, can handle that.
Right. And then if any of it meanders, as he was concerned about, and is on our property, when we actually have a development plan, we have to come back through you again, and that would be the time to impose the conditions on whatever needs to be done with that creek.
Based on,
as far as the residential zoning.
Two separate things. This is the residential right now. Prologis will be next. We're good. I'm good.
Okay.
All right, so we'll put it on for an action item. Thank you. All right, what else you got there?
The next item is the Prologis development. As you recall, the concept plan for this proposed development was approved back in February. Prologis is now moving forward in the next step and requesting approval of a development agreement, special use permit for a planned industrial development, or PUD, and approval of a preliminary development plan and subdivision plat. The PUD, or special use for planned development, is needed 2 reasons, because the property is greater than 10 acres in size, but most importantly is because of many concerns that were raised by neighboring residents for certain development conditions that needed to be incorporated into the plan. The conditions have been included in either the development agreement, which is attached, and/or addressed on the applicable plans that are before you this evening. The development agreement will control all aspects of the development of the property that is currently owned by Lockport Investments and then subsequently by Prologis. In the report, the development agreement, as I said, is attached, and we've identified some of the key issues with respect to that development agreement. And many of these items were conditions of the concept plan approval that got further reviewed and evaluated, as we said they would, at preliminary, and now have basically become part of the development agreement and the PUD. Included is also again, it's going to be 5 industrial buildings that total plus or minus 1.9 million square feet of area. It is the intent of the developer to develop in 2 phases, which is outlined in the development agreement, and possibly 3 if building number 5 is separated from the second phase. As you may recall, the applicant and developer has agreed to work with the city on marketing this lot and building for a commercial or non-warehousing type of use. I have provided a summary of the site data for each of the 5 buildings. In addition, we're talking about building size, building height, the landscape ratio, automobile parking, trailer parking, and dock doors. A new public roadway is being proposed, having a right-of-way width of 80 feet. It will connect 143rd Street, which is under the jurisdictional control of Will County, into Archer Avenue, which is under the jurisdictional control of IDOT. Appropriate permitting will be required before the roadway construction can begin. They are providing 4 detention ponds that are scattered throughout the development. In addition, there is extensive floodplain areas along the south property line. The buildings being constructed in this park will be similar to the ones that you see currently at Heritage Crossing Corporate Center, at the Panatone, now Duke property, as well as the Exeter property. What I did want to point out is to help further screen the loading dock areas, buildings 2 and 3 will also include some precast screen walls at the entrances into the truck courts. They will be designed to match the architecture of the building. Rooftop mechanical equipment will be appropriately screened in accordance with code. Landscape plans have been provided, preliminary ones, for the transitional yard buffering area, the detention ponds, the parkway along the new roadway, and the areas to help screen the loading docks and the trailer parking of buildings 1 and 2. I've also identified in the report the transitional buffer yard requirements and how the applicant is meeting that requirement and/or exceeding that requirement based on the plant unit counts that are required. In addition, they are incorporating berms, fencing. One of the conditions and concerns that the Plan Commission had, because it was raised by residents, was that with some of the existing trees, that they might not be as dense as they feel would be adequate enough if the leaves drop to screen even in the fall and the winter. So one of the conditions that has been incorporated is that at the time of final, we will evaluate those areas to determine whether or not additional plantings are required, whether the berm should just be extended, or whether the fencing should be extended. So that was a concern, and it's being addressed. A tree inventory was submitted at this time. There are a total of 1,468 trees representing 38 species. A tree location exhibit was also included. When they do submit for final, they will have to submit a tree preservation plan, and that plan will not only include or identify the trees that are actually being removed as a result of either the development or poor condition, but that they will also have to include a replacement tree schedule. It's important to note here that the replacement trees are in addition to any of the other required landscaping. They're not a supplement. This did go before the Plan Commission during a public hearing on August 8th. Public testimony was provided by 7 neighboring residents. I've outlined what their concerns were. The applicant and his development team were present to respond to these questions and concerns. The Plan Commission, by a vote of 5-0, recommended and found sufficient evidence to support the special use permit for planned development, that it did meet the standards and therefore recommended approval. They also, by a vote of 5-0, recommended approval of the preliminary development plan and subdivision plat, subject to the 11 conditions outlined in your report. The first item refers to the J.J. Bennis comments, which I did give you an updated memo that explains how the comments were addressed, and for the ones that were not addressed, that they would be addressed during final development plan review. Conditions 2 through 7 were conditions that staff had recommended to the Plan Commission, and then the Commission added 8, 9, 10, and 11. And this was as a result of some comments expressed by the neighbors and residents, but also some concerns that were expressed by the Commission itself. As part of the review for Phase 1, additional things that the applicant will have to respond to, including contacting the respective school districts regarding any impacts to bus traffic or bus service, so drop-off pickup for the students that live along Archer Avenue, and whether any additional safety-related improvements need to be incorporated. In addition to that, one of our Plan Commission members, who also has experience in landscaping, suggested that the plant material on the berms be evaluated at final review to ensure that the type and species are sufficient and appropriate for high dry berms, because since the height of the berms will make it difficult for routine watering, so that the plant material doesn't die off or doesn't do what it's supposed to do. He suggested we looked at those species, which we will do that. Additionally, I talked about the tree lines and determining whether or not they're adequate. We will look at that. And then lastly, one of the Plan Commission members had asked the applicant to take a look at that berm height along the southwest side of Building 3 to see if it couldn't be extended or increased. But there's a proposed sanitary line, so we'll have to evaluate that to make sure there's no conflict. With that being said, staff is seeking direction then to place all these requested actions on the September 20th meeting for final consideration.
All right, thoughts, questions, concerns?
I do. I think this has progressed nicely. You guys have really worked on this with staff and everything, so I really appreciate it. My first question, I think, is to Brent and to Ben, I know, and even Pam. We've talked about the naturalized ponds and so forth, and how we're changing what the city's going to be looking for right now in ponds, and where we're stopping. So naturalized doesn't just overgrow everything. Has staff come up with kind of their thoughts on how you want these moving forward, and can we tell Prologis, and is that reflected on these, or so we can at least get it before final?
Yes. One of the conditions of approval is that the 10-foot wide mow strip needs to be provided around the perimeter of ponds, especially in the locations where they are visible from the public roadways. And again, this is so that we get that neat and orderly appearance, and then when they do submit their final plans, that they need to show that that is in fact going to be the case.
I know we discussed, we went back and forth, is that the top of the, so some of them come to ponds and then they come back down? Like IDOT's got a lot of those, they're berms, the edge is a berm. Where does that 10-foot mow land on that? What's the?
Honestly, off the top of my head, without looking at this plan specifically,
that's all right.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me here, but without looking at it specifically, I do not have it. I would anticipate that would be from the toe, though. I mean, that we're not talking about the inside of the pond. It would be the exterior of the pond. Right. But
just if you guys can come up with some kind of best practice for the city, and that then Prologis will know, we can let them know how we're moving forward with the rest of the developments. That'd be great. Second, I know, Pam, you had said that this building would look like some of the other buildings that we have in town. I know that if you can, as a personal request, some more articulation on the fenestration, especially the ones facing 3 through 5 and everything, your elevations. Okay. It's all subjective. I totally get that. So, and then we just had the hotel kind of give us a monument sign, or talk about a monument sign up on the highway or anything like that. But I don't know if there's, I know Cherry Hill Business Park does like the bigger sign, Cherry Hill Business Park and New Lenox.
We're looking at that.
Something nice or creative.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, staff had asked that the applicant, provide us even at the preliminary level, some sort of signage program, but they weren't prepared with that. Okay. So we requested that it would be part of the final.
Good. Just trying to think of anything before final. Thank you.
Anything else? Just want to say really good job to Planning and Zoning Commission. You guys asked a lot of good questions and really ironed this out, and we appreciate having good members on the Planning and Zoning Commission, so thank you. I know Bill's here from that, but you pass that on, Bill, for me. Okay. All right, then if there's nothing else, we'll put that on as an action item.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Ben, you got CA1?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the councils. We do have a position vacancy that we're looking for permission to backfill. The project engineer position is in the budget for 2017 and 2018 with current funding levels. We have 2 other vacancies in the engineering department right now. We're doing interviews still yet this week and others, but we would like to go ahead and plan to fulfill the project engineer position as well, and I put the job description in your packet.
Okay. Or is that just an FYI?
Pretty much, unless anyone has any issues with it, but yeah.
Okay.
I think go for it.
All right, sounds good. All right, who's taking CED1?
Well, that would be me. Okay. So this here is a request to reduce an existing letter of credit to the 1-year maintenance bond. Tim Geisler, on behalf of ML Realty Partners, the owner and developer of building number 6, which is located in the Heritage Crossing Corporate Center, is seeking a reduction to his existing letter of credit, which is dated August 3rd of 2016. It was established at the start of the project in the amount of $847,920.75. There have been no reductions to date. The site and public improvements have been inspected and approved, both by our development engineering consultant, and our director of public works has concurred with the reduction. The amount would be 10% or $84,792.07. It would be established and held for 1 year. Landscaping was initially inspected back in June, shortly after it was installed. As you may all recall, we had some very extreme temperatures at that time. We tentatively approved the landscaping, subject to a follow-up this fall to allow it to have some time to establish. We will also do a re-inspection next spring to confirm that it's being maintained in a condition and continued conformance with the approved plan. Staff is recommending approval of the reduction of the letter of credit for Building 6. We would seek direction to place this reduction on the next City Council agenda September 20th for final action. The reduction would be $763,200.68, which would leave a remaining value of the LOC of $84,792.07.
All right, questions, concerns?
You checked everything right?
Yes, we have inspected it.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. We'll go ahead and put that on for a, that can be a consent, can't it? Yeah, let's do a consent for that, if everyone's good. All right, Pam, you're on a roll.
Wait till next council meeting, 11 items. The next one is similar to this last one. Julian Electric is also seeking a reduction to their letter of credit in the Heritage Crossing Corporate Center. They submitted their original letter of credit at the start of the project, dated July 12, 2016. It was in the amount of $979,066.65. They have not received any reductions to date. Again, we did cite, the site and public improvements have been inspected and approved by our, confirmed by our Director of Public Works. The maintenance bond would be 10% of the original, or $97,907, would be established and held for 1 year. We did the landscape inspection at the same time we did Building 6, and so for the same reasons, we'll complete a fall inspection and then another inspection in the spring. We are recommending approval of this reduction and ask to place it on the upcoming September 20th City Council agenda for final action. The resulting value of the LOC then would be $97,907.
All right, very good. Any questions, concerns? All right, pretty straightforward. We'll put that on for consent then, please. All right, facade grant.
Yes, the facade grant, Susan Fiedler, the owner of Tuffy's Tire and Auto, which is located at 600 East 9th Street, is requesting funds through the city's facade and site improvement grant. She's looking to install a new freestanding monument sign, which would be in compliance with city code, as well as taking care of some improvements in the parking lot, which would include seal coating and striping. Just to note, the applicant purchased the building in 2014, and since purchasing the building has definitely made a lot of significant improvements. Some of the work was done at the rear of the property, but if you recall, the building was painted early part of this year. And so this is just a continuing effort of a business and property owner looking to continue to improve the look and feel of her property as well as the streetscape along 9th Street. The sign that's being proposed would have an electronic message center. Because of sign requirements, an administrative variance, not a variance through the Plan and Zoning Commission, but an administrative variance was reviewed and considered by the city planner because the sign was going to be a little closer to another electronic message sign. Since it was within the 20% range allowable for city staff to consider this administrative variance, that's the route we went. The appropriate measures were taken of notifying adjacent property owners. There was no response against or for the project, so the variance was granted. The sign will be approximately 10 foot high and 55 square feet in area. The sign will be designed in the Tuffy colors, and that will be about 19 square feet, and then the remaining portion of it, 16 square feet, will be the changeable copy. The applicant did submit the 3 contractors' estimates for both the monument sign and for the estimates for the resealing and restriping of the parking lot. The facade grant is based on the lowest estimates, which is what we looked at and evaluated. And even with that being said, just the cost alone for the sign would qualify the applicant for the maximum facade grant in the amount of $10,000. It's a benefit to have the parking being seal coated and restriped, just to give, again, a nice look and feel to the streetscape and the property itself. The applicant has chosen direct sign systems and wolf seal coating for the proposed improvements. Sufficient funds are available. To date, we've only allocated $10,000 to, if you recall, to the Wheeler building on 9th Street in Hamilton. So we have sufficient money to cover the cost of this grant request. We are recommending approval of it in the full amount of $10,000. And once the work is completed and proof of payment would be submitted, then we would move forward with the next step. We are asking that this be placed on the September 20th City Council agenda for final consideration. Susan is here this evening if you have any questions regarding her proposal.
Hi, Susan, welcome. I want to thank you for, all that you've done here in the community and, building up your business and the other things that you do, so I want to thank you for that. I do have a question about your electronic sign. So can you, how big is it? Is it, what's the dimensions of the actual electronic part?
Off the top of my head?
It looks like 42 inches by 66 inches.
And what do you envision putting on there?
Obviously specials that we're offering at the store, break specials, pricing, things like that, but we have also decided to offer it out to any of the nonprofit organizations in Lockport, Boy Scouts that are having pancake breakfasts, the school when they're having their car washes. We can put numerous messages on the board, as well as we are capable of changing them from a cell phone at any time. So we thought that we would be able to use it as well to help some of the nonprofits in Lockport to promote their events.
Okay. I know that IDOT is there because we had to talk to the fire department about not doing animations and such. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you've heard the requirements on that. My request to you would be, even as they transition from one slide to another, I know there's a lot of effects you can put, like a swirl or a zigzag. My request would just be there would be solid changes to
something that's not distracting to drivers.
Yes.
Sure, I understand.
Right. And actually, the city sign code does address that, how many seconds between changes, that it can't flash, it can't explode, it can't have animated. So that is also addressed in the code, which if you have questions about it, we can go through that with you.
Okay.
All right, very good.
I have a question about the facade grant itself. I know that you qualify with the sign, it's more than enough, but how is seal coating part of the facade? Because that has to be done every year.
Well, it's not just a facade grant. The actual title of the grant is Facade and Site Improvements. So any, effort of a property owner complying with code in this case, seal coating and then restriping it so that the parking spaces comply with code, that would be an eligible improvement. Again, it's not something that really, it was included, but again, by the nature of the sign itself, it really wasn't, it really didn't make a difference. It's just an added bonus, essentially.
I think you bring up a good question that I want to treat these separately. Like, I have facade grant questions I think we should discuss, but not incorporate here with Susan what she's actually doing. So for me, Susan, you doing the sign, I get it. The sign does the whole thing and applies under your facade grant and the site improvements. I have a request, though. You have there's 2 islands. You have 3 islands in front of you, other side of the sidewalk. One is grass. The other 2 are concrete.
Yes.
That whole stretch needs some help, some more greenery and everything like that. If we can get rid of that concrete between the sidewalk and 159th Street and put grass in, any chance we can do that? I don't know if that's something.
If I could just interject, we are looking at the 9th Street corridor between Summit and Lincoln at another item later tonight, and hopefully that will be part of some construction. So I would, although I concur with your comments, I'm not sure we want to ask them to do improvements quite yet until we figure out if we're going to do something different with the right-of-way there, where we're going to try to get a turn lane into those, that corridor between Summit and Lincoln. And so I would hate to have her put some investment in there that we need to take out a year later, but I think I would echo your comments that, yeah, we're trying to get all of the property owners to make improvements and make things
yeah, I've got no problem going through IDOT and everything, but if they fall through, I just want to be able to say.
Definitely. I mean, we're always looking to improve the building and just the appearance of it and modernize it, and so that would definitely be something we'd look at.
Yeah, the other one's at Catalina Moore is just all asphalt, and those islands just like a sea of asphalt, but.
It's ugly.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Looks good, just find 2 more businesses now, because we got facade for 2 more. So if it works out well, go find 2 more friends.
Okay.
Because it looks nice to spruce up our town.
It is. I'm glad when businesses take advantage of the grant, and we have a lot of good movement. I know John Fairclaw's moving on his 3 buildings, doing stuff. Building on the corner there of Hamilton and 9th is coming along. It looks beautiful, and Tuffy's adding to this, so I appreciate, we all do, obviously.
Yeah, it looks good when
Well,
we
we appreciate this opportunity. The sign was going up as long as it was approved one way or the other. This is just, a lot of help for us to really improve the property and keep moving forward with it. So thank you all very much.
All right, we'll put it on a consent agenda.
Well, we're talking about, so the second part, Susan, go. Okay. So I was educated today about our facade grant. That is a facade and, what did you say it was?
Site improvement.
Site improvement plan. Right, so they said, oh, well, it's a facade grant, the signs apply. And I'm like, that's not facade. Facade is the front of the building, and its intent is, my understanding of the facade grant was it's downtown only, historic part, to kind of help businesses down there maintain the historic buildings and so forth. So I did get an education lesson today that it does extend. But I think this council should probably talk about, like, what is the goal of this, right? And Christina just said, okay, now we've got, this case was different because they had signage and seal coating. But if they had just come with seal coating, what would this council say? Like, okay, that's a maintenance issue. What are we actually doing here? If Culver's and Jewel, some of the bigger companies come in and say, hey, I want a new sign too, the city's giving away 10 grand, great opportunity to do it, I mean, we actually just heard Susan say, I was gonna put it up anyways, so, 10 grand. There's an effort from the city to promote this, but I don't know if it's a little bit too loose. I don't know if we're gonna close some loopholes and sit there and say it's for a restricted area, or it's restricted, buildings that have not been renovated for 20 years or so forth. What restrictions do we want? I just wanted to start that conversation here.
Sure. I don't think we ever actually came up with a, as I remember, the furthest one out actually was, I think, Dairy Queen, when they came to us, and there were some questions like, that's not downtown. So, but at the same time, it was part of that 9th Street corridor, which has been pretty haggard for a long time. And so we as a council agreed that that made sense to us. But you're right, what happens when, Culver's comes to us, is that, like, so we don't actually have a delineated map where we and it may be worth doing, or, is it a matter of age of buildings, or, I think maybe if staff could maybe think through that a little bit for us, like what are some parameters we could do? Because while I believe the Dairy Queen and the Tuffy made perfect sense, part of that 9th Street corridor, clearly there's a line where we'll cross where it doesn't. So,
I don't know, we don't seem to be using the funds that we're
not
out
even
there
using.
anyway. So
Yeah,
it's
you know,
like,
it's-
well, let's
highly-
continue to give people the opportunity to beautify our city. I mean, it kind of goes against the whole thing about.
It's not like people are lined up, 10 or 15 people are lined up for the three. I can't believe in all the years I've been coming to these meetings, I don't think there's been 10 grants out of the, in probably a third of available cash all these years that people could use, okay? I mean, I understand that, we want to go ahead and get more, things lined up, but
I hear you. You guys are like, hey, look, man, business is business.
We understand the intent, and the intent is somebody, and the thing is if they don't qualify, and it's also our discretion.
See, that's a tough one. So, I mean, even here, we said, okay, here's asphalt.
Do we want to say it's for small businesses under a certain size?
I think the idea of a map isn't too bad, because you could pretty much cover a large different area and encompass a lot. I think the example I used on the phone today with Jim when we spoke about this was the hotel was coming in. I have no intentions to give a $10,000 grant to the hotel, but of course I would do it for a small business like Tuffy. Staff kind of handles and manages that on the inside as petitioners ask, or we take phone calls and emails about this issue. We certainly can deliberate a program or guidelines or come up with a map defining more areas. Yes, I think the intent originally was in the downtown. We didn't get a lot of usage. We've expanded it to the 9th Street corridor because there's been a need. Where does that end and stop? I think we would lean to you for guidance on that, and we're happy to, highlight a map of an area and be pretty inclusive in that map. But I think you may want to keep out the brand new area of 159.
We have another grant. We have the code compliance grant.
Mm-hmm.
We've had $40,000 available for the past 3 years, $60,000 available next year. And I don't think that we have used. We've had 2 grants in 3 years for a grand total of what, 20,000, and we've had $100,000 available.
Right. But then us to spend money on something that somebody finds a loophole and says, I want to seal coat my driveway, is not an appropriate use of
You
funds.
can always be told no.
I get that, but I don't want to sit up here and be like, thank
Commercials,
you for applying, and
non-residential,
it
but-
does say you can do site improvements, but no. I don't want it to be subjective. So if it's something that staff can come up with a little bit more parameters in terms of age of whatever they're talking about.
First thing I would recommend is we all actually go ahead and read the ordinance.
Good
Which
idea.
hasn't been done yet by all of us up here. That would be a good
Except for
idea
Darren.
where to start.
I read it.
But I do have.
Yeah, right. She applied for it, so.
She applied for it, so. I do have a suggestion that I think we need to expand it a little bit further than just the downtown area, because there's buildings outside of the downtown area that need some help. So if these owners knew or qualified for a facade grant, I think it should be offered, because that'll help them and
It helps
the
us.
whole city.
Yeah.
We've always referred to it as facade grant, but it includes, awnings and the facade and windows in the downtown and site improvements in
The
general.
building itself, I mean, if it's crumbling, this could be a tool for them to get a new.
But the intent is, and typically in other municipalities,
It hasn't been used.
Well, how well-known is it that the city
right,
offers it?
and you're, to Darren's point, there are going to be people that are going to start understanding it and being like, hey, if I'm doing something, hey, guess what? I can apply for that sign, I get $10,000 from the city. Is it an appropriate use of our funds to do? Typically, facade grants are for blocks of area, almost like TIFs, to say, here's money for an area that's maybe neglected, needs a little bit more boost, a little bit more help and stuff that we can kind of help people along, right? Our downtown area with the sprinklers and so forth, protect our stock. It's not meant as a citywide
It is.
To make it real simple for people, there's only two corridors. There's the State Street corridor and there's the 9th Street corridor.
That's right.
All we do is say, State Street corridor, 9th Street corridor, end of discussion, let's move on. I mean, we are talking about some stuff that we don't need to be talking about.
No, it's not a ridiculous conversation, Darren. No, it's not. Okay, so here, let's just put it this way, all right? Because I do think staff is looking at some parameters does help. If a new business comes in one of the strip malls further up, and they're going to put their sign up, I think if you're just going to go with this facade grant as is, there's no reason why they shouldn't be applying just to put their regular sign up on the building in the Ace Plaza. And I think that would be an inappropriate use of the facade grant. That's part of doing business, is you have to pay for a sign. Now, we have Tuffy that has a sign that's been up for, 50 years, and it's crumbling, and it's part of our old haggard, downtown corridor. This is why we did a facade grant. So if you're just like anybody can apply for it, Darren, then you're going to open the door to, hey, man, I'm bringing a new business in, I want you to pay for my sign, but that's just the cost of doing business. So to ask for some subtleties to it is not inappropriate.
What we're doing here is one thing I just thoroughly despise, which is government just getting nitpicky, okay? Government being over intrusive, okay? And government making rules, and then rules for the rules, and the rules for the rules for the rules, okay? It's worked out pretty darn good for the 10 years or so that we've had. It hasn't been used to the fullest extent during the past 10 years. We have two corridors, 9th Street and State Street. Those are the corridors. There are no other corridors, okay? It's obvious. When somebody has an old building, that probably needs some help.
Darren.
So, it's just like, I can't believe we're having this discussion.
Darren, lower your voice. And stop acting like we're having ridiculous conversations. That's the job. Okay. So knock it off. All right.
Excuse me. So, but just one quick question. When you said a new business coming in, you'll pay for our sign, I'm assuming this is really strictly for existing businesses.
But I think the way probably I think our facade grant and Jim's concern is it so loose at the moment that it could go in that direction? And I don't think it's wrong to consider those things. It's the money that we came up with to help, so it's not like we're just jumping in and making rules against the way people spend their current money. It's about how they spend the money that we are in charge of from taxpayers. And so I don't think it's wrong to ask these questions.
And just so you know, Jim, I did ask that during the budget meetings. I said, is this money just for the downtown, or could we have it to the 9th Street? So I can see that's probably where this might have come from, because I asked that question, who can use this? So I think that's what you were asking too, same question.
I was like, wait, Tuffy's, that's
yeah,
not
so I
downtown.
asked that.
I said, well, we did Dairy Queen too, and I was like, what? And I'm like, okay. So I got educated today, I totally.
Yeah, no, I did ask that like a week ago, so I mean, you're not the only one.
Before
so.
you got here.
Staff has interpreted it as, as an opportunity to help an older area or buildings or existing businesses. And as new businesses come into those corridors, staff, I think, does a pretty good job of when dealing with them for business permits and things of letting them know what's available. So just because they don't take advantage of, there's been people that come in that are aware of it, but they made investments into their building anyway, so.
All right.
So with that, if staff can take a look at it and see if there's any more comments.
If there's any thoughts or recommendations you can make, we're open to listening to
I
them.
think the only thing that concerned me was the time frame. They can't put get the money and then sell right away. Wasn't that in there? They had to hold it for 2 years. That made me feel better. So there was a time clause that they had to own. So that, that was a positive for me.
And they have to make the improvements within the same fiscal period, and there are a lot of rules and guidelines in there.
Is there any penalty that if they should happen to have to sell prior to this 2 years?
they give
there
it
is,
back.
and you have to pay it back, correct?
Yeah, there's, they fill out a lien when the money is reimbursed to them, the lien then gets recorded.
Okay.
So it will show up in the chain of title.
It's official that, okay, so then they have to, but after the 2 years though, they are clear?
Yeah, it's, I believe it's like I think it's a little longer than 2 years, but.
Some of them are 5 years. So
Yeah,
that's
and-
why 2 years seemed like nothing.
Right.
Well, why don't you do this, Pam? I think Darren does make a good point. Why don't we all refresh our memories on the ordinance? Seeing as we will most likely talk about this again in the near future and listening to your recommendations, if you can forward that ordinance to this council, that we can all refresh our memories by reading it again.
Yep.
All right, thank you. All right, what do you got for CED 4?
Okay. The next item, the the long-awaited update to the development code. The original development code we've been operating under right now was, from what I could find, looked like it was officially adopted in 1979. Since that time, there have been very many amendments that have been proposed and approved. I included an attached list of amendments in your packet so you could see how many have taken place. In early 2016, staff did ask J.J. Bennis, our development engineering consultant, to provide us with a proposal to do a comprehensive update of the entire development code, because it started to become very apparent that our code was outdated, that we were not using best management practices. Certain items were routinely put into annexation agreements, such as that related to the stormwater management variance that everybody wanted, snow removal, things like that. In addition, there were some internal changes being made to standards and specifications that were not being formally adopted through an amendment, which then would create confusion for engineering firms and development people to prepare plans, because what they were reading on the website with the development code we thought was approved wasn't actually what was being required. So included in your packet was an attached red line draft that showed the recommended revisions to the various sections of the code. I apologize. It is about the size of a ream of paper, for those of you who want to know, because I did print it up single-sided for myself. Representatives from both Community Development Department as well as the Public Works and Engineering Department were part of this review process. So J.J. Bennis initially put the initial document together, asked each of our departments to go through it and make recommended changes. We made those recommended changes, then they incorporated those changes, hence we got the red line draft. Jim Darnell with J.J. Bennis is here this evening. He will provide a general overview of the proposed revisions. You did receive a summary of the changes. They were distributed via email yesterday, which kind of gave a comprehensive. First few items were the big ticket items, and then how throughout the document the changes were made.
All right, welcome.
Mayor and council. I'm glad to finally get this here. It's been quite a task. Chapter 153 of the municipal code is the development code, and as Pam said, it's not been updated for some time. And when some amendments were made to it, they didn't make their way into the document that was available to the public. Many areas of the development code had become obsolete, incorrect, or no longer relevant. So we took a look at what changes needed to be made. There are literally hundreds of changes to the code involving grammar and formatting and eliminating things that are no longer applicable, that have gone out of date. But I think it's important, it's kind of overwhelming to look at the whole thing at once, and it's going to take you a while to digest it. But there were 6 big ticket items, big areas that we wanted to address when we started looking at this. First of all, elimination of outdated references in the ordinance, and addition of references to current IDOT design manuals and the Will County Stormwater Management Ordinance. The Will County Stormwater Management Ordinance was conspicuously absent throughout the development code. So I think everybody has to know that, you know, in addition to our requirements, they have to meet those requirements also. Many of the IDOT design manuals that were listed in there are no longer used. IDOT has new manuals in their place. I believe it referred to the BOCA code, and I believe your building department has been using the International Building Code for quite some time now. So there were a lot of things that had to be brought up to date. Secondly, it was important to clarify the city review procedures for a development coming in, which involved all 3 steps: the concept plan submittals, the preliminary plan submittals, and then the final plan submittals. What would be required at each stage, how they would be reviewed, that all has been added so that it's very clear what steps a developer will have to go through. We recommended removal of section 15350, 120, the landscaping ordinance from the development code. It's kind of an odd place for it to be located in the development code, I think. It actually makes more sense to either move it to the zoning code, or it's pretty extensive ordinance. It could actually stand on its own as a landscape ordinance. That's something to think about anyway. But it's kind of, I think, out of place in the development code. One area is kind of related to landscaping that still is in the development code is tree preservation. That stayed in the code. Lockport has very strong language about heritage trees, what defines a heritage tree and how heritage trees should be protected. So that was left in the development code. That's something that they need to know. The section on lot grading was previously, or is currently in the building code, chapter 152, and that really should be moved over to the development code because it kind of blends in with the earthwork and the utility construction and everything else that's part of development. So we're recommending moving the lot grading section from the building code to the development code. Chapter 15360 was a lowlands conservancy regulations section. This is currently pretty out of date. This was a section that we saw it in a lot of codes many years ago, how to treat development that is in the lowlands down near the rivers. But now, at this time, wetlands are regulated by the Will County Stormwater Management Ordinance and the Army Corps of Engineers. So if you follow their rules, I think we got everything pretty well covered as far as wetlands go. Floodplains are regulated by the Will County Stormwater Management Ordinance, FEMA, and the IDNR, Office of Water Resources. So I think by referencing those requirements, we really don't need this extensive chapter, which is confusing to developers. And then finally, we're proposing to eliminate the exhibits at the back of the development code. The exhibits basically consist of two major items. One is construction details, standard city details for manholes, for curb and gutter, sidewalks, things of that nature. These are pretty outdated in the development code. I know that the city has developed some more up-to-date construction details. They're not in the development code. What we're proposing is that they be a standalone document, and this document could be made, paper copies of this document could be made available to contractors who come into Public Works Department. They can be available at the front desk. They can be made available to developers and their engineers at community development, and that way, and they can also be put on the city website for anybody to download. And I think that's the best way to disseminate of these standard details that we want developers to use in their plans, engineering plans. The second item that's included in those exhibits are signature blocks and language for plats. I think it's very important that the city have a uniform form for signature blocks and uniform language for easement provisions. Many of these are out of date and they're not being used on plats today. There's different plat requirements now than what's in here. So what we're recommending is that the community development director and the city planner work to put together a set of signature blocks for plats that they're comfortable with, and a set of easement provisions for the different types of easements that they're comfortable with, and then that becomes the city standard, and so that all plats that get recorded are uniform and they all match. So those are the big areas that we tried to address, and like I said, there's hundreds of small changes in there, and many of them, even though they're a small change, there's some of them are certainly could be discussed, and the pros and cons of that. So right now, this is being provided to you for you to look through and to come up with suggestions on where you want this to go. It's my understanding you've been provided with a red line copy. That red line copy is really hard to read because it's got so many crossed outs and so many others. We can also make available, we do have a clean Word copy of the revised development code, which may be a little easier to read. So it's nice, I think, to have the clean copy. You can go through it, and if you have a question about something, you can go back to the red line copy, see what it used to be, and see what it was changed to. Makes it a little easier to get through it.
Our plan, Mayor and members of council, were to bring this back to another committee of the whole, maybe in October, give everyone a chance to absorb all this. Even all the staff has been looking at this, and I know Darren caught potential duplication in the red line version, but
Yeah,
so
what I found, I begin on page 63, and it seems to be all the odd pages. From then on, okay, the heading is the heading on the top of the page is section 153.50.030 drainage and storm sewer system continued, and every odd numbered page from then on, it's the same heading.
When we created the red line version, there was the formatting gone a mess. And so I thought I caught all those headings, and obviously, when I printed it out, I did not catch all of them. They pop up.
Yeah.
They don't show on the computer screen, and then when you print them out, they pop up on different pages. And so, yeah.
And the only other thing that's not related to Venice is I would like to sit down and with staff and the mayor sometime in the next month or so to talk about section 153.3 and its related ordinances we have in regards to fees. This one specifically discusses land for cash for public parks and school site cash dedications. The reason why is, if you all recall, about a month or so ago, we received our fee schedule, and we were quite out of line at $24,700 as compared to the next lowest city was $16,000 and change, and many other cities were $11,000 plus or minus about $500 in total fees. Either they're out of line or we're out of line, and I would like to discuss these fees and try to get these fees that these new homeowners have to pay, the people building these houses, as close to $15,000 as we can get them to actually get in alignment with all the other communities, because we are out of line.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Why don't we do that, Darren? And then what we can do is, because it affects some of the other taxing bodies, Jim and I can take it to our new intergovernmental agreement and have that discussion. I think it'd be a good, fair way of doing it with everyone. Okay. All right. Jim, I feel you sucking the air out of the room over there, man. What's on your mind?
I waited a year and a half here. And I have not read this because I was like, is this the final? It's there. So if you've got more changes to make, I don't want to go through this and then be skipping this. So if there's formatting that you can fix quick, I'd rather do that.
Well, that's where the version, I think the clean version that we can make available to you, the formatting's all been cleaned up, and it's just, you can't see what it used to be.
Right. That's a red line version is what I want to actually see, is what we
Yeah.
what are the thoughts behind that, so we can have a logical discussion. So when this is here, so obviously the game plan is for everyone to really digest this, not read it the first day like they already did it. So take some time to look at it. I do want planning and zoning members to look at this also, Pam, so you can distribute it. So if they have comments, and then Pam can kind of collect them, and we can discuss them again. Say, hey, there's issues that we've had in the past that maybe we could work about. I have not gone through this. Landscaping, you pulled that out. So what is our plan with the landscaping program? that officially been moved?
No.
Well, he's just, it was a recommendation. it
A
sounds like.
recommendation to move it to the zoning ordinance or to have it stand on its own.
My thought would be put it with the zoning ordinance. I'd hate to have another standalone thing.
I got no problem with it moving, but if it hasn't been updated, then we're just moving it out of date and landscape ordinance. So
I don't know if there was any red line items in it, so.
There is none in the landscaping.
you haven't done it.
I have not done it, no.
I have not reviewed that.
Okay.
So that hasn't been touched, so we need to discuss that. And then the AutoCAD, I'm confused about that. So the details that you had, the city has, what are those?
Brent, Public Works has some standard details in AutoCAD. I'm not sure where they came from.
Yeah, we've got a handful, but at this stage, I would say that we don't have any. I mean, to be honest with you, we've got to go through and update all of those.
That's part of J.J. Bennis's proposal. So they're taking our AutoCAD details and updating them. So that needs to happen so they can be on it.
Sure.
I'd rather not, again, a standalone document, whatever it is.
Yeah.
This is one place where every developer can go look and we can be consistent about it and our details are there. And to be honest, right, for the whole board to understand, we as a city, we've fallen behind on updating this, right? We got a lot of outdated things. Everyone used to bring it up and developers used to talk about it and everyone, depending on who you talk to in the city, you got a different answer. So we need to make sure that we take our time and do this right, update what we need to do. Shouldn't take a year and a half, guys, I'll be honest, that took way too long for us to do this, but we need to update this quickly, make sure everyone's on the same page, and then adopt it. Because we gotta move on to other codes and stuff we gotta update here. But AutoCAD, the details is something that, quite honestly, was in the proposal, I thought that was gonna be done and already be taken care of. So that needs to happen quickly, so whatever you guys got talked, hand it over. Let's do that, so.
All right, well, I'll agree with you, Jim. I know that this has been kind of your baby, and I appreciate that with your background working on this, so I will concur. Any other thoughts, crew? Okay. All right, thanks, guys. All right, a zero-turn mower, though. That sounds exciting.
Very, very expensive. My memo here this evening, we would like to bring for consideration for a future city council meeting the purchase of a zero-turn lawnmower. Budgeted amount for this lawnmower was around $20,000. This is the lawnmower that will replace an existing mower. As you can see in the memo, we did try to trade in the John Deere mower that we currently have. It was too old to trade in. So what we're going to do is, rather than try and get a new John Deere mower with a front bucket on it, we'll simply use the old mower with the front bucket. It will just become a bucket. We won't have to deal with trying to repair and replace the mower anymore. So we're we're proposing to buy a zero-turn lawnmower that would handle the Bonnie Bray area. In addition, since that's only going to be used, once a week in that area, that would become part of our fleet to go around the city and to stay up with mowing across the city. So that is one thing I want to make clear. This becomes I'll say for lack of a better term, a fleet mower. It's not just going to be a mower that we're buying to sit. This goes also into next year's projected or proposed budget, where we're looking for some additional staff and some additional summer employees to get ahead of the mowing a little bit. So this would be a mower that would become part of that fleet. So this evening, what we'd be looking for would be the quoted price is $13,293.54. This is through the NJPA, which is the National Joint Powers Alliance purchasing contract. So again, this is essentially a state bid, state purchasing price. And we would be looking to put this on the next council meeting's consent.
So Brent, did I hear it right? We had 20,000 budgeted, and you have a quote for 13?
That's correct.
All right, so we did put this in this year's budget?
That's correct.
Okay.
While you're on acronyms, can you?
Yeah, that was going to be more
Bonnie? Bonnie Bray Forest Manor, STP.
There's 4 sentences and 4 acronyms in this whole thing.
And
I had to text Ben and ask, like, I don't even know.
Aaron, that's what you should be getting mad about with government, man. And acronyms.
I'm gonna put it on that.
I think I'm one of the most senior board members here, and I was looking at it going, I don't know what this is called.
I had to get a little.
I know STP.
I had to get a little training from the guys down at too, so don't feel bad. But yeah, this came from our treatment plant, and if there's any questions on it, like I said, I want to make it clear though that this mower is a fleet mower for the entire.
Yeah, this whole mowing thing, I don't know why it's become a thorn in my side, but it feels like we've got full-time people. We've got a landscaping service, we've got fleet mowers, we have Bonnie Bray mowers. We're looking to hire more people, maybe part-time or
correct
temp next year.
Some season, yes, I want to make that some seasonal. It's not part. I don't want to say part-time. It's
It just seems crazy. Like every time we talk about this, it's like mowing. And we pay the park district to do downtown cleanup and mowing and maintenance, right? And here. Well, we have a separate contractor here, but the partnership with the park district is more like taking care of potted plants and things like that. They're not really cutting grass. Okay. They're not cutting grass.
I'm glad you're asking that, because that's what I didn't understand. They said it takes 30 days to mow everything. Is that?
Yeah, it takes like a whole month.
I don't understand it either, so I'm right on the page with you.
There's a
what are we
challenge.
cutting?
We hire a service to do most of
What
it.
are we cutting exactly? I'm sorry.
Well,
schedule some ride-alongs.
I think
Yeah,
that.
maybe. I mean, I'm like, what grass are we responsible for? Really? We have to do everything?
Yeah.
So
and,
then
and,
you know.
and there's I think there are some ways to make this work. My previous location, we did have, quite honestly, I think that our full-time staff, we can probably utilize them a little bit better in some other areas. So what we did was we were able to get a great staff. It took us a couple years, but we got a great seasonal summer staff. We're talking, some they were between high school and college. So basically they were out in college or kind of in between years. We would keep them for 3 years. We paid them, right in that $9.50, $10.50, an hour. And what we would do is we'd bring in 6 or 8 of these a year, and we would start to get kind of, 4 became good. And then those 4 became the senior guys the next year, and we brought in 4 new. And we were able to, and I don't want to, I had a lot of help there, but we had a fantastic mowing program after a couple of years. And we were mowing the grass on a weekly basis. Everything looked pristine. So we were actually, taking care of weed whacking, trimming. Right now, we don't really weed whack. We don't edge. We don't trim. We don't pick up. If it rains for a month and we've got to go out there and mow grass, we leave piles. And it's just out of sheer, we don't have any other hands on deck right now. So, but I mean, we were really on top of it. It's one of those things that I've heard from some council and from some residents that we can do a better job of. This is one way that I'm proposing next year is to bring in 3 additional seasonal employees. I say small costs that in that I'll say $10 an hour range, and I do think we're going to see a lot of improvements. Which also I'll be able to take one of our one of my thoughts, take one of our full-time employees who are devoted. We have 2 devoted to mowing. We take one of them away. We put one of them kind of in charge of the mowing crew, and then we've got these 3 additional seasonal employees who they're just out there from start to finish. They're able to mow. They don't get pulled off when it becomes an emergency. All they're doing is mowing. So,
Brent, just to give you
yeah.
a little bit of background,
Sure,
I think
sure.
where my frustration started well predates you, is I don't remember when it was, but when the Berry contract came up, I was like, I admittedly didn't have an appreciation for how much mowing that there actually was, but I was like, this is crazy. Why don't we buy a mower and hire a guy and get it done, right? And so I know Lisa did some work on it and came back and was like, no, we're best served having Barry do most of this for us. So that's fine. That was the decision we made, and we followed staff's advice. But now we're talking about buying more mowers, having more people to supplement Barry, and it just
I don't know.
And I think
I can't believe I can't get my head around mowing staff.
And I think what I need to do, and I think Ben kind of mentioned this, not necessarily a ride-along, but we have every location now, an address. We have the sizes. We have everything in a document that we can now give to you. And so you guys can see this is how many acres, essentially, we can put it down in acres. This is what we're mowing. Now, what we have Barry do, that was a different list. So that was not an all-encompassing. Barry takes care of, some of our high visibility areas, some of the tougher areas that are, again, high visibility that we need to hit continuously, consistently. But all of the right-of-ways, those are a big task. There's a lot of mowing up and down the 355 sides, and I'm talking not inside 355, but those down slopes. Yeah. We've got those to maintain. We've got up and down Gallagher. So we've got some fairly large areas, and again, we just had 2 people, and I think that was just the way that it kind of has always been. And it's, again, we knock things down. I'd love to see him look better. I mean, quite honestly, it's one of my things that I would love to see better. And over time, again, all goes well, maybe next year we hire another employee and we knock down Barry's contract. Because I'm right with you. You can't, I can't always just ask to add. I mean, that's not feasible, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense if I just keep asking to add. You have to get to a point where you guys start to see the benefits and the city sees the benefits. And so I think the process would be over a several year process where we can start to knock off some of that Barry landscaping.
I think we talked about this before, and you're best served, again, everyone's visual, a map with the lots that are highlighted so people can see. Guy, it's the same question, like how many lots are we actually doing? And they're just addresses. I think we asked Joe Finley a year or 2 years ago, and it was just a list of addresses. These are all the addresses we hit. And I couldn't tell if it was a residential lot or 18 acres. So I think a map, just highlighting those the different areas and what's Barry, what's Park District, what's us, that the council can see and say, okay, I get this. This is the equivalent of 80 homes in a day type of thing. Let's do that. And then to Jason's point, this mower is just not just for the BBFM's STP, right? This is your landscape crew that goes around. So they're putting on a truck, taking it away from.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not specifically for the STP. Gotcha.
Are a lot of these
BBM,
code
BBFM,
violations where the people just have had the grass grow, or is this specifically like our grass that we're responsible for?
I would say that 80 to 90% is ours. Some of it, but there are those areas, detention ponds are always going to be an issue. I think any city, detention ponds become a problem because they, either a homeowners association was never set up, they were a property owner that didn't realize when they bought that piece of property that they thought, oh, I was getting this nice big play area that they had to maintain. It gets overgrown, and then it's either we let it continue to overgrow, or we get in there, we figure it out, and we try and lean back. There's a lot of different options, but ultimately, just to keep up with it, we end up, we cut some areas that probably were not intended to be cut by the city at one point, but it's become part of the process. I think it happens everywhere. Happened, my previous location. There's a lot of areas like that, yes.
That's a map. Nice and visual.
So, yeah, and I think that's,
would be good.
and this year, just to give an idea, I mean, these are small, these are lots, but we did purchase 2 houses, demoed those, and so those are areas that now we will maintain. So it's 2 residential lots. Again, I mean, we're talking 2 residential lots, but
it takes time to load the trailer up and bring it over there again.
Yeah, and we do add to it every year.
So. Right, and to be fair, those are homes that haven't cut their grass, that we have to cut their grass, and it's been neglected, and we lean them back, so those are flexible also.
Yeah.
But just want to make sure that a list of addresses does you no justice without a map showing how much land you're actually doing. Mm-hmm. And JR worked those, you just said, so he can attest to it.
Sure.
That used to be his job.
It used to be my job when I worked for Lockport.
All right, well, what do you guys want to do for this mower? You guys want to, are we okay with getting this mower?
If we can utilize it, yes, better, but yes, absolutely.
All right, so we'll put that on the consent.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the 2017 resurfacing project, additional roadways. One of the positives that came out of our bids this year was that we had.
I got Lincoln to Summit, right? Or, yeah,
Am I on my,
Oh,
you know what?
that's
I
on
did.
council, yeah.
I'm sorry, I went to city council, their committee of the whole agenda meeting. I just seeing everybody on their toes, you know. PW2, apologize for that. Illinois 7 roadway improvements, Lincoln to Summit. One of the things that when I got here, one of the areas of concern for the city is, again, I heard it, the corridors, 9th Street corridor, State Street corridor. In addition to the 9th Street corridor and the State Street corridor, the beautification that's being done, State Street, we're adding a left turn lane. IDOT's doing some work trying to improve the flow of traffic. 9th Street, Illinois 7, same deal. We've got some areas that, you could improve with some look, with some curb gutter, you can improve stormwater. But ultimately what this is going to do, and what we're looking at from Lincoln to Summit, is an area that channelizes down to 2 lanes. So coming from the west, and then also going to the east, from Lincoln. Thank you, Ben. This area is 2 lanes of traffic. It's a rural cross section. It's got no curb, no gutter, no stormwater. It's a pretty bland cross section through there, and it doesn't get the flow of traffic through there. If somebody's wanting to make a left or a right into one of these businesses, everything stops. And I'm sure everybody's kind of been caught up in it. So what we're proposing this evening, it would be the Phase 1 study. This would be a Phase 1 engineering study through IDOT. This is an IDOT roadway. The city, a couple members of the city, Ben and Amy, did head up to IDOT up in Schaumburg and meet with them over the past year and a half to discuss this project, and it does sound like a very good project either through them for also ultimately construction money, or through the Will County Governmental League in 2020 through their process. Their monies are on hold right now for 18 and 19, but 2020 we had some discussions with them as well. Again, a very good project for them to get behind on the construction money. In addition to the construction money, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 could ultimately also be covered, potentially, I don't want to guarantee that, but potentially through the grants, through the funding mechanisms. So as far as the Phase 1 study goes, it would be from Lincoln Street to about Summit. Again, just when you're driving it, as soon as you see it go from 3 lanes to 2 lanes, you'll see that's what we're looking at. We would be looking at, again, adding the lane, storm sewer, and curb. So curb and gutter. So you'd see a completely different cross section through there. We'd get rid of some of the ditch, not some, all of the ditching. You'd have some, some grass, some landscaping options, and it would just be more of a consistent flow through there. I think those are some of the challenges in that area. Again, Phase 1 is about a year. Phase 2 would be 19, and then Phase 3, which would be construction, you're talking about 2020. It works well with the funding mechanisms. Also, whenever you have Phase 1 done, it's in that check marks. It's a positive for the funding, the future funding. Phase 2, again, another check mark for the funding. So this would be the recommendation. Any questions?
Just wanted to also comment, we've been working with IDOT on this for a long time, trying to get them to do something. And we've been able to make some headway with them to do a partnership where we complete Phase 1. My original goal was to get rid of those loose rock shoulders that everyone sees or illegally cuts through to get around people impatiently. And I asked Deputy Chief Huff to run some numbers for me. We've had 71 accidents in that stretch in the last 5 years, 71. So I think in the name of public safety, it can also be, an argument can be made that we should do this, not only for the beautification opportunities that it affords. I think we wrote like 33 citations for people driving around the shoulders. So this will be a great improvement for the community, and again, it helps the center corridor that will hopefully thrive and help grow business as well. Yeah, so on this map in front of you, basically you see Summit Drive there, which connects with 3rd, just kind of adjacent to the Big Lots and Pizza Hut, and would go all the way down to Lincoln, which is about where Tuffy's is on that corner there. I can click into a satellite if you think it's better, but just put your mouse on it. Yeah. So Summit is here, okay, and you've got the Burkott's is back in that shopping center, so there's a church here, I forget the name of it right there.
Shepherd of the Hill.
Yeah, so that would be from Summit all the way down to Lincoln. And if you, Lincoln, I think Tuffy is between Garfield and Lincoln here.
Right across.
You know, if you think about what IDOT has done on this stretch where they did a great job a few years ago of expanding 159th from the tollway to Thornton, you remember all that project, and now they're working on the downtown, and I think, you know, part of this timing works well where State Street should be done by 2020, so then now you can start another construction project and complete the state's right-of-way and their roads. You'll have State and 9th completed. I think it'll be a huge asset to the city, so. And I know you love plans. There was a 9th Street corridor plan from 1990s that probably needs to be revisited before we finish all that, but yeah, we'll get that.
Okay. All right.
Well, I have some questions here. You know, it is not that it doesn't need to be done because it needs to be done. The question here is that isn't our street.
Correct. So here's the way this plays out, and this is our decision to make, right? Is when Ben and I went up to Schaumburg and we talked to IDOT about a number of projects. We were talking a little bit about State Street, and then also put a couple of these projects before them, like there's this one, can we do a merge lane off a new avenue? I mean, there's a whole bunch of things we put before them. The reality is that with the way the state is at this time, it's really difficult to get IDOT to do phase ones. And if you have phase ones done, they're a lot more likely to work with you. So it's kind of like what we've done with a lot of things, whether it's the middle alignment and working with the other communities to get it. It's like if when we show some initiative and that we have some buy-in on it, I'm finding these projects move forward a lot. It's the same thing with the State Street. When they wanted to get rid of the parking, we didn't just say no. We spent some money to show an engineering plan to say this is what we're proposing, and that led to what we have now. So I'm just finding, and this is a decision for us to make, but I find that when we take the initiative, spend a little money, that we're able to get on the docket in a state that's got financial crisis where they don't want to spend money on stuff like this. So that's why. That's the answer,
Yeah.
the short answer.
Well, I get that, but it's just, and it needs to be done. I mean, it needs to be done. Somebody needs to do the phase one.
Phase one is a reimbursable expense. I think it is a reimbursable expense, so.
It's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed, but it's a reimbursable expense in the grant process, so we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be getting a lot of it back, right? But basically, the way they explained it, they said agreed that it was a terrible intersection, and, but it's, you know, at the bottom of a list of 500 projects, and how do you get it elevated? You complete phase one. So
There's a lot of other things we could do on there, it's like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
This is the route.
This was the only option we had to do something.
I don't either.
Okay.
Well, I'm okay with it. Everybody else is okay. I'll be okay with it, but those are the questions I have.
So the only problem, though, maybe that's what you're asking, is if it doesn't get completed, we're out, what is that, 252,000 up to that? That's the real question, then. Is that what you're asking?
I think that's exactly what I'm asking.
Sure. Sure. And but the phase one's got to be done no matter what. And so, but you're right, if IDOT then doesn't take it to the next step, or if they choose to just drag their feet on it, it is what it is. So, I agree. That is your one rub. So, for me, my experience with working with these guys for the last 4 years is that if you take the initiative, I've found it to pay off. So. And clearly, when you go to these guys with 71 accidents, that does mean a lot to IDOT. So between that and having a phase one done, I think we have a pretty good chance of getting it moved forward.
So, as I state all the time, right, it drives me crazy that we can't go out for RFPs for these things, but does this feel like a reasonable price for the project?
It does. We did look at a couple different options on this. We were going through the RFQ process, so we did have some other options on this one, and we feel like this is right in line, and this is the correct consultant for this.
And then it's probably a safe assumption, but we're still waiting on the mythical new CIP. I'm assuming this project is in there for the year 2020 in the preliminary CIP?
Being presented in 2 weeks, I think. Yes.
Yes, it is in there. It is in there. This engineering cost is in next year's CIP, and then the future CIP, years show the engineering costs.
I just want to make sure
and
this
then
would be
also-
one of our prioritized projects.
It is. So it's 2018 Phase 1, 2019 Phase 2, 2020 would be construction, and it's in there. And so, yeah, I'll talk it maybe a little, just a quick snippet on the CIP after we get this one done.
Okay. Does it sound like we're...
After you approve this.
That sounds like...
We're not approving anything yet.
That's the final $242,000 we have in the next 10 years.
That's
a lot of money.
All right, Bill, turn 42, we're in trouble.
All right, well, you guys, are you good with this then? You want to move forward with this?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want it on an action item, or do you want to put it on a consent?
Consent is fine.
Consent.
Consent.
Sure, give me
Sure.
some money.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And then as far as the CIP, just a quick update. The plan would be, I know next council meeting is very busy as well. So we do have the option to bring it to the 20th, but I think what we're asking would be the first week of October, the first meeting in October. It is put together. We've got everything, lined up. It's been done for a week or two.
I don't have a problem with that. You guys okay with that? Or do you...
I'm totally fine, but if, it's probably a pretty substantial document, could we get it more than the Friday before for a
Sure.
reread for that then?
Yeah, why don't we email it out to you
Everybody's
soon?
good, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited to get it out
Me
there.
too.
So, and then I do want to start also, and I know I'm going to say this, and then I'm not going to have a real good update to read to you for tonight, but for construction, it is something that I'd like to start to make you guys aware of. I know we do have on the website, we do have the construction updates, something we're going to work to try and make sure that that's staying up to date, but also at a council meeting, I do want to start to bring that information to you, so when you do get a call from a resident of business, you guys have the most up-to-date information as well. Again, this evening, I don't have a lot of, a lot of great information. We've got a lot of projects going on. North of McGregor, I'll just run through them very quickly. North of McGregor, that's about 3 weeks out. That's going to be landscaped. The final stormwater work is actually being done this Saturday. It's scheduled. So landscaping and then surface course will be done over the next 3 weeks. Hamilton Alley completed today. I don't know if anybody had a chance to drive through it, but the asphalt strip from the concrete alley tapering back into the driveway was put in today by Austin Tyler. I think they did it, quite honestly, I think they did a really nice job in there. I think it's very sharp. It definitely changes the whole appeal, the whole look back there. We do have the downspout connected, so when you do, or downspout connections that will be done this week, they're scheduled for Friday. So if you see that those are not connected yet, those are still being done. We have a roofer coming in to do that work. A little bit more of a specialty item. Commerce Street is a full go. I'm sure everybody who went down there got to see all of that road is out now, so it looks like there's a whole heck of a lot of work going on, which there is. Again, Austin Tyler is doing that work. We're about a week and a half out on that project, but that'll be wrapping up here in again about a week and a half. 13th, 14th, Washington, Jefferson. That I feel like is kind of a never-ending project, and I'm sure the residents over there feel the same. Utilities were completely relocated as of last Thursday. Everything's been moved, so we have no more holdups. Deconstruction will be pouring curb next Tuesday, so a week from yesterday, the curb will be started. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the curb, again, provided rain and everything holds off. The following week, we would be able to get in there and start doing pavement. So again, that's probably in that 3 to 4 weeks where you're going to start to see some real changes. 3 weeks, I'd say you start to see pavement down. 14th, and I believe that is off the top of my head here. Like I said, I'll have a much better list, but I just wanted to kind of to make you guys aware, because I do think that's very important for you guys to know where our projects stand.
All projects on schedule then?
You know what? Second Street Bridge. Second Street Bridge is the last one that I forgot to bring up. Second Street Bridge is a project that deconstruction is doing as well. Road will be open to traffic by the October 6th date. That one is there. We're having a little bit of a tug of war on that one. Completion date by the contract, less the landscaping, is October 6th. We're having some good discussions about what that actually means, landscaping, and you know, where the painting of the actual structure comes into play on that. The finish date for that is October 27th. There's been some talk that they're concerned about the staining being able to be done this fall because of weather. It's got to be 50 degrees for 24 hours after it's been painted. And they're concerned that they're not going to be able to get that done in October, by that October 6th date. So again, I've let them know that the contract says October 6th, and that's the date that it needs to be done.
That's early.
I do want to, you know, let council know when these types of situations come up, but I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful that they're gonna be able to get it done. But that's the other one. Everything else is, I don't want to say it's on schedule because it's not, because we had some utility problems, utility issues that again next year we're going to try to get a handle on very early. But everything's going to be done this year. We're not going to have anything run into you know, as far as like pavement or anything like that, any issues running into the winter. So
All right.
One other one, resurfacing project. We do have a lot of projects, so I apologize. Resurfacing project, Austin Tyler got that work. We'll talk a little bit more about that during the council meeting, but that project, they're anticipating to start 2 weeks from yesterday. 2 weeks from yesterday, Tuesday, yeah. So.
All right, Brent, thanks for the update, man. It's a lot going on, so appreciate it.
Yep.
We did get thank you calls from Mr. Klunk and Mr. Rilo today. Those are appreciated for the Hamilton Alley being completed.
Okay. All right, anything for new business? Oh, Billy, what do you got? Late for that card, man.
Oh, he threw it down like a trump.
Man, look at this, kaboom. All right, Lockport Post 5788. What do you got, Bill?
Well, good evening. My name is Bill Maloney, and obviously I'm wearing a different hat this evening. I'm here representing Lockport Post 5788, Veterans of Foreign Wars, over here at 1026 East 9th Street in the 9th Street corridor. Our motto is Veterans Helping Veterans, and that's what we do on the local level. If a local veteran needs money to get their car fixed, or they needs a ride to the Heinz Hospital, whatever they need, we do it. But beyond that, we're an integral part of the Lockport community, and we want to be supportive of what's going on in the community. So what I have here in my hand is a check drawn on our account and signed by our commander in the amount of $500 payable to Lockport Love. Chief?
Let me take a picture.
There you go.
Snidely whiplash.
All right, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
And while I'm up here, most of you know that I'm a Vietnam War combat veteran from a little over 50 years ago, but membership in the Veterans of Foreign Wars is open to veterans of the more contemporary conflicts, whether it's Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, any branch of service on the ground, in the water, in the air, and any local veteran is that served in any of those theaters is quite welcome to come over and be a member of the Lockport Post. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for all that you guys do. All right, very good. Well,
I don't think it's working.
It's broken?
Oh, thanks, that's right. So, the mayor and I had discussed in the past the possibility of the police department doing an escort for any veteran that passes away, any Lockport resident that's a veteran that passes away. And it was the mayor's decision that we would be doing a funeral escort for any veteran that passed away. I think that's our way of honoring those veterans who have served our country. So as long as the person lives in town and they're going to Abraham Lincoln or a funeral or a cemetery in the area, we're going to do a police escort for them. So,
Right.
oh, very good.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for everything. All right, lads and ladies, if we don't have anything else, then looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Jim and Joanne?
No. Catherine.
Oh, Catherine wants out. All right, all in favor?
That's because that was long.
Is it do 5? Yeah. All right,
Back Tom to the hot seat there.
we'll start up at 9:30.
That was long.
Good to go. So, Sonny, can you give us a roll call for
Yes.
city council?
Mayor Strike,
Yeah.
Renee Saban,
Present.
Jim Petrakis,
Present.
Christina Bergbauer,
Present.
J.R. Gilogli.
Here.
I'm gonna get it. Gilogli.
Yes, here.
Jason Vandermeer,
Here.
Darren Deskin, Joanne Bartison,
Here.
Catherine Peretta.
Here.
Quorum present, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, friends, looking to have a consent agenda tonight. May I have a motion for such?
Second?
All right, Jim and Joanne, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That didn't sound very good. Do I have any nays?
My mic's off.
Okay. All right, so on tonight, the consent agenda is the August 16th regular city council meeting minutes, the August 16th committee of the whole meeting minutes, payroll period ending August 13th, our various bills, license agreement for permission to use the train station, resolution 17073, the 4th of July fireworks, it's contract with Mad Bomber for the next 3 years. And then ordinance amending Chapter 30 of the Lockport Code of Ordinances. This was ordinance number 17026. So, looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Anyone? Renee?
I'll second it.
Holy moly. Second is Bergbauer. What's the matter?
Yeah.
I'm
Can't
off
wait
for
to get
some
this
reason.
executive session.
Yeah. All right, so we have two motions and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
I tried to ask a question before it was my turn, that's why. So two small things on the bills.
Yes.
One is we had some roof repairs. Didn't the roof get replaced? And they're both small dollars. Didn't it get replaced like within the last 12 months?
You're talking about the roof here was replaced a year ago. I'm not sure which item it is.
Right, and then
The flat roof wasn't part of that project, so, of course.
Oh, it's the flat roof over here. Is that where it was, or the one behind me?
Yeah, one of the flat roofs.
Okay.
oh, so that was just something different.
Yeah, we
It
did
was
all
something
the
different than
shingles.
what was originally done in the project like a year ago. Yeah, because that would have been a warranty claim if there was.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is,
Yeah.
did we look into warranty
Sure.
claim? Okay, and then the second is Homer Tree. It says cleanup of debris, so is that typical? Like if we have, was that landscape related, or was that something different?
I'm not exactly sure on this bill list. I could pull it for you and talk to you about it. We do use them for certain things if the trees are too big. Like we have, tree cutting abilities only up to a certain inches, and we do contracts with them.
Yeah, I know they do a lot of trees,
yeah.
but when it says debris removal at Canal and Division, and I just didn't
Canal
know
and Division.
what that was or what we hired out.
Sure, we can get you more detail on that. Do you know what it is?
Yep, sorry. Getting so excited over here.
Buzz yourself in.
It was the 13th Street, for the 13th Street culvert work that's going in. This is part of the whole Chevron, west side stormwater study. There's the ditch from Canal Street. It's west about, I don't know if it's 300, 400, 500 feet. It was a ditch that had to be cleared out, so that's what that work was.
This is the one that's over by the CCC shelter, right? Is that kind of a?
Yes.
All right, I know
Yeah,
what you're talking.
those
it's a big-
improvements will help us actually get the floodplain map revised. So those were requirements by the Corps of Engineers that we were responsible for. Yeah, and I want to say, I could check, I want to say Chevron's going to reimburse us for that.
I'm positive we do. We do get a reimbursement.
For the 10,000.
Yes. Yep.
Cool, that was it.
All right, can I have a roll call then, please, Sonny?
Yes. Saban,
Yes.
Petrakis,
Yes.
Bergbauer,
Yes.
Gilogli,
I vote yes on all items on the consent agenda except those that involve my employer, and on that item, and in this case, item 4, paying of various bills, I abstain.
Vandermeer,
Yes.
Deskin. Yes. Bartison,
Yes?
Peretta.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it looks like I jumped ahead with my proclamation, so I can jump over that. We have two executive session requests tonight.
Yes, if that's okay, Mayor and Council. 2C1 for personnel regarding appointments, employment, compensation, and discipline, and dismissal of specific employees. Also under 2C5 for property acquisition, which would be the purchase, lease, or real property, including meetings held in the purpose of discussing whether a particular parcel should be acquired.
Okey-doke. And then FD1.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Today we had the 2017 general obligation bond sale. We had 4 bidders, and the lowest bidder was Robert W. Baird out of Milwaukee. The true interest rate that was obtained over those 3 years is a 1.27, so it was a very favorable interest rate. So we're looking for council to approve that bond ordinance 17-030.
Okay, looking for a motion?
Make a motion.
Jason?
Second.
Seconded by Catherine. Any discussion?
Just evidence of more good work by the...
Yes, thank you. Lisa did a great job. Great rate.
Fantabulous. All right, may I have a roll call, please, Sonny?
Yes. Saban?
Yes.
Tracus?
Yes.
Bergbauer?
Yes.
Galogly?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Bartison?
Yes.
And Pareto.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Can.
This evening, I do have one item on the City Council agenda, PW1. This is in regards to the 2017 resurfacing project. On the August 16th City Council meeting, we did discuss the 2017 resurfacing project, and it was awarded to Austin Tyler in the amount of $692,050.70. The original budgeted amount for this project was $950,000. With the favorable bids, we felt like it was a great opportunity to take advantage of those favorable bids. Austin Tyler was over $100,000, I believe, less than the next lowest bidder, which kind of it proves that they were, very good bids, very competitive. And so this year we were hoping that we could add in a few additional roadways to take advantage of that. Roadways are Clinton Street from 10th to 9th, Heritage Lane, and then we've also got some larger patching areas across the city that we would like to include. The total added with the, and again, this has all been discussed with Austin Tyler regarding holding of prices, so their unit prices would hold. They have agreed to that if council chooses to move forward with this project. It would increase the cost to a total of $845,831.16. I guess that, again, that is out of the $950,000 that was originally budgeted. We would ask for this to be included. This project would begin in about 2 weeks, as I mentioned earlier. Any questions?
Well, let me make a motion first. A motion to...
I'll make the motion.
Darren? Jason?
I have a question. So it's Clinton Street from 10th to 9th?
That's correct.
And we're not going to do the one block of 10th?
10th to 9th. I can look at it. Honestly, I can look at it. This 10th to 9th, the reason that became a priority is we had a main break there. A couple years ago when the patch has just settled out, and then we've also got a structure that is probably 2 inches too high, and so it's a problematic area. So that's one of the reasons. But I can look at 10th Street. Are you looking?
Well, to give you where this is, it's down on the west side underneath the bridge, right?
It's
yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's south of the bridge, so it's one block. Clinton Street is one block. We're going to go down to Greif Brothers, okay, which is right at that intersection of, where it makes the curve. And we're not going to come up the hill?
This is actually, yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, we can look at adding that, or including that in this.
Yeah,
it's a short stretch.
Yeah, it's not even a city block. It's 100 yards.
Yep.
All right, well, why don't you look into it, because nothing drives us all crazier, right? When there's a little piece left. Okay.
Were these, back to CIP, I mean, were these projects, it sounds like there was an issue on Clinton, so that makes sense, but how were these projects identified to add?
The Heritage Lane would have been done in the very near future, and then the additional patches, the patches are areas that are in dire need. I mean, these are areas that are in need of work. I would have included them, or they would be included in next year's. If this does not go through, they would be included in next year's. If we're able to do them this year, we would just be simply moving up projects from, let's say, 20 or 19 into the 20 or 19 into the 18, and it would just
it's just odd to hear that we have dire need patchwork,
We do.
that we didn't bid out, right? And especially when we didn't constrain this, it's not like we came in and said, the request was 1.2 million, but we only have 900,000, so you have to cut.
Correct.
Not that you were doing it, but you had to cut a quarter of the project, so that seems kind of odd, and then it seems kind of odd to come in 30% below budget on the project as well, but.
Correct.
And if we would have bid out more work, you might get more favorable pricing, right? So they're matching their pricing, which is
Correct.
nice, but
Holding it.
could have been better.
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. And that, I mean, again, this is some things that we need to tighten up. Absolutely get our, when we budget something, it's got to be based on good estimates.
And I think the other part of that is the bids are set up with some type of alternates, so you can sit there, if you do have money in that budget, that you can add a couple more blocks, whatever it is, and
Well, and
identify
that's
those.
where, like, I'm not trying to harp on it, but the CIP, right? We could have just said, oh, well, Clinton 10th, we're getting next year's CIP, we're pulling it
Right,
forward.
here's these two, and then if it comes in over the budget, those two don't just stay in that year.
Are grinding and repaving on the CIP? I thought they're not, something like grind and repave is not a CIP project, is it?
We have a resurfacing line item, and then as part of that resurfacing, what we do is we'll go through a year in advance, and we will identify, here's the areas that need to be addressed. So are they listed specifically on the CIP? No. We have a
Because I've known Victoria Crossing West was coming up for at least a little while now. So maybe it was only a year in advance.
It's in quotes, and these are for the Homer townships. What we've tried to identify, and you'll see on the CIP, is some of those Homers.
That's
so
true.
we
That's
can,
true. It's a little bit different. You're
yeah,
right.
so we can try and identify those and capture the additional funding.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, anything else? Well, we'll do a roll call.
Mayor, could I, for the record, who made that second?
I think it was Darren and Jason.
It was me and Darren.
Okay.
Jason did.
Jason made the motion, a second, okay.
Darren made the
Jason
motion,
seconded.
Jason second.
Okay.
I was
Saban?
paying attention.
I'm just looking
Yeah.
forward to get to
Yes.
this executive session.
Yes.
Petracas?
Yes.
Brookbauer?
Yes.
Gilochley?
Yes.
Vandermeer?
Yes.
Deskin?
Yes.
Partisan?
Yes.
Beretta?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you, council. That's all I have this evening.
All right, very good. You guys ready to adjourn into exec?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Lisa.
Motion.
I'll make the
oh,
motion to adjourn to executive
Oh, I
session.
need to make a motion, sorry. Motion to adjourn into executive session. Jason, seconded by Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, Lisa.